behind. I'm starting the behind sharing process. Kill the sound on that.
I sent the.
France, you gotta fix that thing.
My beeper, yeah.
Oh my goodness, it's been a month. How have you not driven yourself quite literally insane? I can't even tell you.
I'm a nerd to it.
I guess.
I don't hear it anymore.
That's craziness. That would make me absolute. Well, it is making me mental. I don't even live there.
Listen, I promise you.
I know you can't find it, right?
That's my problem. I can't triangulate in to find the source. My living room, in which the thing is somewhere, is full of my accumulation of 70-some years. I'm a hoarder. I admit it. I have lots of things and stuff and so forth, and somewhere it's buried among all my belongings, and I can't find it.
It's not on the ceiling where it should be. I guess not.
No, I think it was in my former residence, and I took it off the wall and brought it up here and put it somewhere, thinking to mount it sometime.
Come on. Boy, add to the sarcasm, George, man. That was rough, George.
Sorry. You usually find it on the ceiling. Okay. I guess not. I'm sorry.
It's true, though. I mean, it is generally when it's not one of the plugins. Yeah. Okay. So what I have done now, I'm on to the national sharing in the national outlets. Just reminded me, George, I need
to forward the phone.
I did that.
Okay.
Co-host, sir.
Well, listen, guys. I'll mute so you don't hear
it. We're only subjected to it a couple of minutes a week. I don't know how you haven't gotten a shotgun out and just started blasting randomly into the room. Hoping you'll hit it.
First of all, though, I do have some firearms. I don't have a shotgun. Secondly, that would make more trouble in this world.
True, it would make a bit of a mess.
It sounds like a Monty Python episode where they tried to hunt the mosquito with the hunter, and they were like blowing up all these places. Oh, I missed them. Oh.
I think.
Well, as I say, I'll go mute.
I think Thomas needs to help you out here. I'll hunt that thing down.
Useless. He's useless. He's useless for that sort of thing.
Hey, he's good company.
Best. He is, and the best thing his odor keeps the rodents away. Haven't seen a single mouse in this place in 4 years. So that's good enough. He earns his keep.
Possibly because you have the ultrasonic repeller, which is the little beeping thing that goes beep, beep. And I can't stand this anymore. I gotta get out of here.
I can see
actually that beeping only began within the last several months. I hadn't heard it before.
The fact that it's lasted this long is just mental in its own right. But I could see Franz, George. I could see Franz taking that to Shark Tank. It is a rodent and insect repeller. Well, what is it? This is like an amazing piece of technology. How did you develop that? Oh, it's actually a smoke detector with a dead battery. But boy, it's working great.
Yeah, you get lemons, you make lemonade, right?
All right. We're almost there on the national.
Who's our guest this week, or do we have any guests?
We are waiting on, I don't know who's in the Facebook who'll be listening to these lovely pre-show. I do kind of actually enjoy the pre-show. I almost kind of look forward to it each week. It's just mayhem, and I kind of fancy that. Our guest this week is Mr. Robert Zeigler. He is A or the, I'm not 100% certain, to be honest, Democratic candidate for the Pennsylvania State Senate in the 34th District. And does that ring a bell to you, Franz, the 34th?
That
is
I'd have to look at my map.
That is Mr. Corman's district.
Ah, okay, yeah.
Indeed.
Well, Corman needs a challenger for sure.
And that is part of the reason he's running. He doesn't want to see people go unchallenged. He knows he's got an uphill fight, and there's nothing wrong with being realistic. Hang on one sec. Now we're going to do groups, guys. Just give me a minute. Check out here a little bit. Share to group. Here we go. It is 4:58. Let me give you, you folks are in the Facebook watching early. Let me give you a quick rundown as to where we're sharing just this week. We have I Thrive, the PA Volunteer Group, the United NEPA Alliance, the AOC Progressive Group, Bucks and Beyond, Folding Chair Dems, Our Revolution Signal Boost, the Hub for Progress, Pennsylvania Democratic Politics, We Want Fundamental Change, now indivisible in Laurel Highlands, PA, the George Simpson Political Posts comment and discussion. He's been very kind about sharing the show consistently every week. Pennsylvania for the People, Indivisible, Nightingales, the Blue Revolution. We will skip them. Progressive Democrats for the People, Flip Pennsylvania, PA 9th Indivisible Pennsylvania, the PA 10 group, Lehigh Valley Young Democrats, Rid the Stigma, Restore Northampton is our conservative group that they have somehow not kicked me out of yet. We'll skip them. I don't think they're exactly a receptive audience. PA Voter Information Network, Lancaster Urban Media, the Hellertown and Lower Saucon Fierce group, Pennsylvania's Against Fracking, the PA 11 organizers. We actually share into the Georgia Senate runoff group. Group continues to operate even after that election is done and dusted. But then again, Reverend Warnock, Senator Warnock, will be up for re-election in just 2 years. Our Future Central PA, Lehigh Valley for Bernie Sanders. Lehigh Valley stands up. Back to Blue Northeast, Progressives of Montgomery County, Bernie Kratz of South Central, Human Rights Campaign in Pennsylvania, the New Deal Democrats, Project Battleground Pennsylvania, Saucon Democrats, Democratic Socialists, Unapologetically Black Life, Progressives Break Room, of course, our friends at hot101.net, Our Revolution West Philly 2020 campaign collaboration continues to operate, which is a very good thing. The Bushkill Township Democrats Grit Group, Jefferson Hills Democratic Committee, the Progressive Democrats of America Healthcare Team, Lehigh Valley Progressive Network, the Progressive Candidate Forum, Our Rev Policy and Legislation, Bernie Kratz of Southeastern PA, the Bucks County Democrats, Pennsylvania LGBTQ+, Election Integrity, Lycoming County Democrats, Berks for Bernie, Back to Blue Lehigh Valley, Turn PA Blue, Our Future Northeast PA, the Las Vegas DSA Metaphor, all groups.
Mr. Zeigler's coming in. Excuse me.
You have the co-host, don't you?
Yep, I got him. I just admitted him.
The Liberal and Progressive Democrats of America, Concerned Citizens of Easton Metro DC DSA, the Easton Area Democratic Committee, the Easton Post, the Bethlehem City Democratic Committee, and the Kutztown Area Democratic Committee. It is 5:02. I should be underway already, so hang on, everyone. Strap in. Here we go.
Kennedy, 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 Kennedy. Do
you want a man for president who's seasoned through and through, but not so doggone seasoned that he won't try something new? A man who's old enough to know
and young enough to do.
Well, it's up to you, it's up to you. It's strictly up to you.
But it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy for me. Kennedy, 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 Kennedy.
Do you want a man with spirit who is not afraid to fight?
A man whose record shows that he will fight for what is right.
A loyal man who'll bring the job a fresh new point of view. Well, it's up to you, it's up to you. It's strictly up to you.
'Cause it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy for me. Kennedy, 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 Kennedy.
And do you deny to any man the right he's guaranteed to be elected president, no matter what his creed?
It's promised in the Bill of Rights to which we must be true.
So it's up to you, it's up to you. It's strictly up to you.
And it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy for me. Kennedy, 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 Kennedy.
Do you like a man who answers straight, a man who's always fair? We'll measure him against the others, and when you compare, you cast your vote for Kennedy and a change that's overdue. So it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you.
Yes, it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy for me.
Kennedy, 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 Kennedy. Welcome, welcome, welcome from my humble second bedroom here in the Saucon Valley, part of the Lehigh Valley in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, part of these United States on this planet Earth, the only one we have. Third rock from the sun in the Terran solar system, part of the Milky Way galaxy. This is the Kennedy Effect live for 18 July 2021. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome, welcome back. To all of our friends across the Facebook universe, welcome back to the program wherever you may be. Watching and listening right now, you can stay exactly where you are and enjoy the program. We are simply glad that you are here and part of the family and glad to welcome you back yet again. However, if you wish to join the comments section and chat section that I can see, please come on over to our home group Facebook page called That Other Side of Information. That is where I will see you. I will see your questions, your comments. You can agree with me, disagree with me, yell, scream, anything you wish. I will see you there. That Other Side of Information. Again, continue to watch, enjoy, listen in the background wherever it is that you may be. However, if you want to join the live chat, please come to That Other Side of Information. To our sisters and brothers at hot101.net, welcome back. We thank you so much for allowing us to be part of your Sunday evening or wherever it might be, whatever time it might be on your part of planet Earth. We are proud and humbled to be part of the hot101.net family. And if you do not know how to listen to hot101.net, it is extremely simple. Heck, the web address is the name of the station. It's hot101.net. If you have an Apple device, you can listen through go to the Apple App Store and download the hot101.net app. If you have an Android device, you can go to the Google Play Store and download your app for Android there and listen on the app. If you have the Tune In Radio app, go up to the search bar, search for hot101.net, and you can listen through Tune In Radio. And now you can ask Alexa to play hot101.net. To our new friends, our new partners, and our new family at TCP, the Cultured Professional, the TCP Network, and WTCP Global Internet Radio, we welcome you again. To our second big week on TCP, we are proud to be part of the TCP family. It means a lot to us, two entities that belong together, and we are happy to be part of it. with all of that fun stuff said, you know how to. Oh, let me also say, I am currently live on Twitter. You can tweet at me. I seem to always forget the Twitter bits for some reason. You can live tweet me right now, your questions, comments, etc., 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 at that Kennedy Talk, all one jumbled word together, at that Kennedy Talk. We are on Instagram. We are on LinkedIn. We're all over the darn place. There's really nowhere you can miss us currently. You can email the program, thatotherkennedy@gmail.com, thatotherkennedy@gmail.com. There is no shortage of ways that you can get to us live in the middle of a program. And we will be opening up the phone line later in the show where you can call us with your questions, talk to my guest, talk to me. Again, agree, disagree, questions, bring up a point you think we didn't completely explore or that we didn't get to yet, whatever it might be. This is your program. We are big fans of NPR around here, folks. We like them a lot. They're very informative. But it is a bit lecture-y. We don't want to lecture you. We want you to be part of the program. With all of that said, let me get to this week's guest. Very happy to have him. We're happy to have any guest because let's just be honest, it's pretty much family time right now. It's hard sometimes to get guests to take away large bits of time away from family on what is still traditionally, family time on a Sunday evening. However, we are here. You are there. And then remember this too. We could not be here. We could not be here doing this program if it was not for you. If you are not there, we could not be here. So every single one of you that are listening and tuning in live or watching the recorded program, thank you for being part of the Kennedy Effect family. Every single one of you means something to us wherever you may fall on the political scale. And don't try to hide, conservatives. We know you're out there. We know you're watching as well, because you wouldn't be disagreeing with me all week about anything I said if you weren't out there listening. Let's get to our guest. Our guest this week is a Democratic candidate. And I don't know, actually, to be honest with you, if you're the only one. I've actually forgotten to ask you that. But a Democratic candidate for the Pennsylvania State Senate from the 34th District here in Pennsylvania. There are 50 senators, the 34th district, and that is Mr. Robert Zeigler, a new friend of the show. Robert, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me. And currently I am the only Democratic candidate.
Are you expected to stay that way?
From what I've been told, yes.
Well, then that makes things a bit simpler, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
Robert, we had the opportunity to speak a little bit on Friday. I think it was Friday, over the phone. And so you know what's coming. So let's just jump in. Who is Robert Zeigler and how did you get here?
Well, I guess I come from a town called Waynesboro, originally down in Franklin County. So that's where I grew up. And if you aren't familiar with that, it's right off of I-81, basically heading south near the Maryland border. And that's where I grew up. And it's a rural area. And similar to where I live now in Penns Valley. And that's where I grew up, went to public school, went to Penn State Mall Alto campus for a couple of years, then moved up to State College in 2004. And I've been a Center County resident ever since. And with that, I finished my undergrad in political science, worked in food service industries, and then hospitality, and got into management, became a trainer for different fields, then eventually got into retail. And while I was doing this, I worked on my master's degree in business administration and public administration. Around 2009 is when I graduated with a 3.9 GPA in those degrees. And then started working on my doctorate for management leadership theory. And they changed the title a couple of times in the program. So, but I was doing that while working full time. I met my wife in 2009 while doing that program. Got married 2011. 2012, we moved out to Millheim, Pennsylvania, which is the eastern part of the county near Union County, and Mifflin, roughly the same distance, depending which way you go. And basically been tethered to Center County ever since, which is a good thing. At least I think it is. And because of my son being born.
You're living there. Hopefully it's a good thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah. So in 2013, my son was born, and I just realized I couldn't finish the doctorate program at the time just because I didn't want my wife to feel like she was stuck, because I'm working full time doing the doctorate thing. And basically, all I got to do is write a book, Jeff. That's it. That's all I got to do is just write a book.
No problem. Do it.
Yeah. Just do it.
Come here and read it.
Yeah. So, in terms of the educational, that's what happened with that. And I just kept working, worked at Macy's, did the corporate work a little bit there. And now I'm at Penn State working there, going back to food service, managing people. And soon I'll be overseeing the students, being the student success manager, which is awesome. I always want to help lead the leaders of tomorrow and build that up. So that's my personal and educational background. I guess you want to know the political stuff?
Well, it'd be nice.
Yeah. So in 2018, I think it was. Yeah, 2018, I was appointed to the Milham Council. For a few months, I had gone to a few meetings because there was a hoopla about people's grass being too high. It was a really big hoopla in the town. I don't know why. And a few other issues. So I just started going there for accountability purposes, taking notes. And my dad was in local government for over 20 years. He did code enforcement work, and he also did Parks and Rec stuff. Even got involved with recycling. He's really big in recycling. I actually remember him designing the recycling center that they did out of my Legos when I was a kid. That's how improvising he was with that. But yeah, so I got involved with government because I had some insights, and with my education, I just took notes and gave suggestions. And eventually, hey, this guy actually cares because he's showing up to all of our meetings, and he's the only guy doing it. And there's a couple openings. I got appointed. And once I went into the ropes, that's when I started moving and shaking, as some people say. I kept one issue was broadband, a really big issue in the rural areas. So I'm sure a lot of your listeners know of that.
Really, isn't really the key issue for broadband in the rural areas the lack of broadband?
Yes, it's either the lack of broadband or it doesn't fit federal.
Or it's kind of crap, or it's just kind of crappy broadband.
Well, yeah, because when the legislators did their breakup of the telecoms, they put high-speed internet to be horribly beneath the federal standard. So in the state level, Verizon in general, with Verizon, it's other companies too, they meet the standard. However, the federal standard is 25 megabits down, 3 megabits up, and they don't meet that standard in most of the landlines they offer. So I noticed that was an issue here and an opportunity to help keep rural America competitive, or at least more competitive with more centralized areas, metropolitan areas. So in Center County, it would be State College, for example. And, there's just other opportunities. And so solar, it's a money saver now. And we happen, being a more rural area, we happen to own land. So that was something we could look into because our sewer plant uses about 85% of our electrical costs. I was like, well, we could save money here. So 2019, after looking into things, and that was also the year that I actually had to start running for a re-election, just started looking at solar, started holding meetings, getting things looked into. And I decided I'm going to look into broadband too, because I might as well reach for the stars. And I just kept pushing and asking questions and finding the right people and just getting all those networks and nooks and crannies of things. I know more about broadband than I would care to admit. I know a lot more about solar than I care to want to know. But I know it's possible. And eventually they did the studies for the solar. They came up with a program. Last year they built it. We've been saving a few $1,000s so far on it with the electrical use. And it's been pretty beneficial. No issues with the system. It's not noisy. That was one thing somebody said would be noisy. It's not. I know. I don't even.
How is broadband noisy?
Oh, with broadband. Now with them.
Oh, you mean the solar noise?
Yeah, the solar was noisy.
And the wind?
Yes. Yeah, they said the solar would be noisy.
Be noisy.
Well, the inverters make noise when the electricity from DC gets converted to AC.
So does it. So does the transformer on a high tension line.
Exactly.
It buzzes.
Well, they were using. We have a grocery store that has a carport that's a solar carport, and it's like the first of its kind in the entire nation. Actually, it's out here near Milheim of all places. It's got its own like drainage system, all this other stuff, but it's loud because it's hitting the pavement, and you're directly underneath of it. That's why they're thinking it's going to be loud in the middle of a field, in the middle, further away from any house. But yeah, it's been good. We are the fourth municipality in the entire state of Pennsylvania that has solar account for most of our electrical use. So it's pretty impressive considering our population is not even 1,000 people. But any borough-used property, electric is solar through net metering and all that good stuff. With broadband, that was a little bit more of a headache. That was a lot of conversation.
What did the solar save? Save the borough?
Currently, it's saved about. Well, we just got up and running near the tail end of summer last year because we were waiting on a grant. Man, if we got the grant, it would have been incredible. But we're saving about. I think so far saved about $4,000. But that's once again you missed out a good key months of the summer. So we won't really know this full savings until we have a full actual year of everything said and done with the net metering and all that stuff. But it looks like it will probably save us around 10 to 15,000 a year when it's all said and done. And then the way this system is now, you're looking at least 28 years of good commercial grade life, probably more like 40 years. So we're saving this over long term. So if you're talking about 10 to 15,000 a year, and you add that over, let's say, 30 years on the conservative side, that's a good chunk of savings for the borough. So, I mean, that's a part-time employee.
Tell me about your district. Tell me about the 34th district. We're very fortunate. We happen to have viewers and listeners literally all over the globe, and of course across the Commonwealth and across the country. But tell me about the 34th district, be it or what do you want to tell me about the 44th district? Geographical, demographics, peoples. Tell me about your district, the district you're looking to represent.
Certainly. The 34th district entails Center County, which is the most populous out of the counties. You're looking at and this I'm just going to round it to simple numbers. About 150,000 people live in Center County. Part of that's students. Part of that is prison population counted as well. But there's that's where a lot of the population's at. You have a portion of Huntington County. That includes Huntington Borough, Mapleton, Petersburg, and different townships there. Mostly like the northeast part of the county. That's well, from my experience driving through it, a lot of forests and farms. That's what a lot of that is. Huntington Borough is a very nice place. I've been there driven through there a lot of times. I've stopped there a couple of times. Mifflin County is well, I mean, that's a lot of farmland too, and a lot of wilderness conservation areas. It's got beautiful country. You drive through there. A lot of solar out there. It's one thing I noticed too recently. There's been a lot of solar development out there with the residents and businesses. And then it includes Juniata County too, which is the one I'll be honest, I'm least familiar with that county. I just never really had to go through there too often. And that's also the least populous out of the counties too. In terms of demographics, I know the household median income is generally lower in those areas comparatively to Center County. I also know that it's mostly white. And then education varies exactly where you're from. It's all over the place in terms of levels of education, the jobs that they have. It's all over the place. But the more rural areas like Mifflin and Juniata and part of Huntington, it's usually more blue collar down in there. Parts of Center County that way too, but Center County's heavily, because of Penn State, heavily faculty, more like manager type jobs, administrative jobs, things like that. That's the basic gist of it.
Would you say that the district is heavily gerrymandered? Is it partially? Is it relatively fairly drawn?
Well, in terms of political party, I would say it's definitely favoring Republicans. Because if it was more accurate to actual representation, to be fair, they would include Mount Union, which tends to be more democratically heavy in the district. And that's part of Huntington County. Because the Juniata College is in Huntington County. So it's usually college areas tend to be more liberal leaning or left leaning or Democratic leaning, whatever you want to call it. So in terms of spatially and logistically, it's not too bad. You know, I think if it was to be done more simply, they could probably do Center County and Clinton County, which is northeast of Center County, and then just be two counties and done. You know, it could be done a little bit better. So I would say it's slightly gerrymandered. To what extent? I mean, it's hard to tell with the college students in Penn State because believe it or not, that's a big influencer there too. I hate to say that, but it's the truth.
Do you think that's partly why Republicans are currently working so hard to make sure that those students either cannot, or at least it's going to be a heck of a lot more difficult for them to vote?
No, well, they can try to make it harder to vote. But the thing is, like, ultimately, you have a generation of people that have been kind of fed up with how the system is. Like, demographically speaking, you know, the younger generation, like, I'm an elder millennial. Okay, so it's
That's a new one. That's a new one for me, Robert. I haven't heard that one before.
No, I've heard of geriatric millennial too. I'm like,
okay.
that's a little bit too much.
But no, you're not quite there yet.
Yeah, so I'm an elder millennial, and you know, it's the group that's after me. I guess you call them the Gen Z, or some call them Gen Y, or whatever you want to call them. They have lean heavily Democrat. So, but the one thing that's different, and I would say I want to credit Bernie Sanders with this. I know it's not just him, but I'm going to credit him for that. Is he fired up the youth so much and made them a lot more active and passionate than they've ever been. Now, I'm not saying they're the most reliable demographic because they're not the most reliable.
No, sadly, they are not. No,
but they're getting
fired up as they supposedly are. They're not reliable when it comes to actually showing up at the polls.
That's true, but most of them also have to work, or they're in school, or they have these other situations that make it harder for them to be able to vote, depending on where they're at. If you're a full-time student, like what I used to do is I used to load up my classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Well, if election day is Tuesday, and I've been in school for about 7 or 8 hours doing college courses, voting is kind of lower on my priorities. Now, I'm a poli-sci major, so I'm voting, but right. That's me. The regular college students, some of them can't afford the luxury to go vote when they have a job on top of their schoolwork. So, I mean, you think about it, if the groups that vote the most tend to be retirees, historically speaking, and in general, they tend to be people that are either that are more comfortable and more established with their lives. So those are the people that are able to vote more. And this is a generality; it's not all the cases, but basically, if they're over the age of 65, they're more likely to be able to vote in person now, because they have the time to be able to do that, or they have the capability. Whereas a college student or even a high school student, at age 18, it's harder for them to do that. It's just harder, period, because of the way the system's set up.
One of the great questions hovering over Pennsylvania and really the entire country, because of the census, it is a redistricting time. We're in redistricting season, so to speak. Do you happen to have any gauge or any idea of what might be happening to the 34th district? Do you think it will stay the same? Do you think I would assume it's going to change. Really, everything usually changes in a redistricting year, even if those changes are slight. because of population shifts and et cetera, et cetera. Do you have any inkling as to what might be happening to the 34th district? Will it get larger? Will it get smaller? Will it get shift out of one county into a different one? Will it get more red? Will it get more blue? Do you have any inkling as to what might happen to your district?
So I've heard three different things.
Only
so,
three. That's
only
pretty
three.
good. Only three.
Well, see, I say three because if two people have said the same thing, I consider that to be of value. Whereas one person saying one thing, that could be just speculation. So if two people say the same thing, I'm thinking it's more likely to be a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I'm saying there's three total things I've heard it from multiple people. The one is that it pretty much stays about the same. So the way, Jake Corman, who I'm running against, assuming he's still going to run. I mean, why wouldn't he? He's been doing it for a while. Get that retirement plan. But
it's a good, easy job. He doesn't do much.
Yeah, I didn't say that you did, but that's okay.
And that's absolutely. I did say it doesn't do much other than behind the scenes. He's not the most public. He's as radical and as close to the fascist end as the rest of them. He didn't used to be, but he has moved that way as Republicans have moved that way. He has flown his sail in the wind and let the breeze blow him. But not as vocal or not as out in front of it as a Mastriano would be, or somebody like that. But certainly is backing those tendencies and policies, et cetera, in the background. And it doesn't, by all indication, happy to be corrected if I'm wrong. I say that all the time. If anybody wants to call me and correct me, they're welcome to try to do it. Doesn't seem to be a fellow that works too terribly hard, but collects a good, gets a nice benefit, gets a good paycheck, lovely healthcare, the same kind of healthcare he doesn't want anyone else to have, but gets it for himself, and so on and so on. And he is in the Senate leadership. Am I correct?
Yeah, he's the president pro tempore. So on paper, I'm not sure in practice, but on paper, he is the top Republican, the top leader.
He is the highest, in the pyramid, most powerful elected Republican currently in the Commonwealth. Correct? Would you?
Yeah, that's 100% correct. And because of that, he actually gets paid more than a regular legislator does too. Yeah, I think it makes. Now I'm trying to go off of memory. I haven't looked at this for a while, but I think it's around $130,000 a year. That doesn't include per diem, and that doesn't include expense accounts either.
Which puts him in the top 5, I want to say, percent of income earners in the country, and probably in the top 1% in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, it's up there, that's for sure. If he's not top 5%, he's definitely top 10, easily. And that doesn't include any properties he may own and rental properties and things like that. So he's got other income as well, but from what I've been told. So gerrymandering, the things go back to that. So I've heard three things. One of which is the district more or less will stay the same. Like it might shift a little bit, like basically through Huntington. So then when I said about adding Mount Union, that was one of the speculation things that was happening. Or that it might add like that in a township or something in that regard. Nothing too drastic. Which I mean, that's fine, whatever. I mean, in that case, you're taking what's there and you're just modifying it slightly. Mm-hmm. That's a reasonable adjustment. I have no qualms with that. That makes sense.
Makes it easier for you and Mr. Corman, to be honest.
Yeah.
The least amount of change that happens to the district makes it actually easier for both of you.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of voting, makes it a little bit better for me. But I mean, it's Mifflin County and Juniata are 3-1 favor Republicans. So I mean, it's not he's not going to be hurting because of it.
Right.
It's like I'm giving him a flesh wound, basically, in terms of the.
And we do know that we do know it. Just history tells us this. Facts and the numbers tell us this, that Republicans they're just simply more loyal voters.
Yeah.
They pull. I've said on this program before, and I've certainly said to friends and family and folks that I work with in politics, it's the irony of the evangelical vote is that if Satan ran for office with an R behind him, they'd vote for him, and that's pretty much how it rolls.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting with that. It's just like if and I'm going to go out on a limb. It's like, so people, those you talk about evangelicals, a very pro-life group. If you're pro-life, wouldn't you support programs that help the poor and that help children more? You should be all in favor about universal pre-K.
Goodness, we could do an hour just on the hypocrisy of what used to be the Republican Party, which is now what I generally refer to on the program as a corporation. They hold no remaining vestiges of a functional political party. But let me reset the program here. It's 5:33 Eastern Time here in Pennsylvania, in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and here in the Saucon Valley. I am in the Saucon Valley. Robert is in his home. He's lucky enough to have several drinks listed in front of him. I've seen a couple different mugs, so he came well prepared to keep the old palate, greased up and ready to talk to us for this evening. Wherever you might be across Facebook, please feel free to come to the home group Facebook page. Very, very quiet in the chat right now. Good number of folks there watching, enjoying. Well, we hope enjoying the program. I don't think they'd stay if they weren't enjoying it, but I always like to say we hope they're enjoying it. Not a lot of, not really any comments or questions in there so far, but please feel free. Ask your questions, make your comments. I will address your questions and comments to Robert while we are here together. If you want to ask me a question, ask him a question, heck, ask George a question. Do whatever you wish. You can do that home group Facebook page, that other side of information, where you can watch live and be a part of the program wherever you might be watching currently on any of the, I forgot to see how many places we shared this week. Actually, I forgot to take a peek at that, by the way. You can do that. I think we were around the 90-ish range of places where the program is airing live currently. Stay right where you are, sit back, listen in the background, enjoy. You are welcome to stay there. But if you want to come and join the chat, please come over to that other side of information. You will see the video listed right in the timeline. Tap on it, expand it. There's the comments. Join us. Our friends and family and brothers and sisters at hot101.net, thank you for allowing us again to be part of your Sunday evening. We are with you live around the country, around the globe, and you can be part of this program as well. I will be giving you the phone number later in the program, and also if you are listening through the main website or on the apps, you will see some telemetry running across your screen that tells you exactly what you're listening to, and the phone number is embedded in there. You can always call us and join the program. You can listen to hot101.net at the main website, which is, of course, hot101.net, the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store. If you have an Android device, or for any device whatsoever, you can download the TuneIn radio app. Go up to the search bar, type in hot101.net, and you will find us there. And as April let us know last week, you can now talk to your Alexa and tell Alexa to play hot101.net. I do not have an Alexa because they don't feel being listened to 24/7, and we know that she's doing that. We are also in our second big week as a member, proud member and partner of TCP, the Cultured Professional based out of Lancaster. Their website, their Facebook following, which is a large one, and their global internet outlet, WTCP. Proud and honored to be part of the TCP family. If you do not currently watch TCP, they are available 24/7 on Facebook. They have a Roku channel. They do a live morning show 5 days a week. They travel about, do live events. Fantastic outlet. Really good and decent human beings building something special. And we're proud to be part of that. We hope you will give them a look and listen as we move forward. You can email the program, thatotherkennedy@gmail.com. The Twitter is open at that Kennedy Talk. And if you've missed any of the program, you can find us on Instagram, That Other Side of Information, Patreon, That Other Side of Information, TikTok, That Other Side of Information, and our YouTube channel, also called, are you seeing a pattern here? That Other Side of Information. So, Robert, rather than go down the rabbit hole of what used to be functioning political party known as the Republicans, and now, you know, as I mentioned, I generally refer to them as a corporation now, because it seems to me, and not just me, but it seems to me that the main function of what was the Republican Party structure, you know, the committee people, et cetera, and the elected officials that wear the Republican banner, seems to me that their sole job now has been to redirect as much wealth to the top 1% and the largest corporations in the country, if not around the globe. And that, to me, makes them employees. And the owners of the company are, in fact, the top 1% and those large corporations who always seem to reap the windfall benefits of massive tax cuts, of subsidies, of free money. You know, they're the best investment in the country right now. This is actually a fact. The best. I giggle, but I guess I giggle because it's so uncomfortable and so just hard to fathom sometimes. But the best investment in the country right now is a politician. Dark money groups can give $1,000, $2,000 to a legislator and get a tax cut that can bring them back hundreds of millions of dollars inside Pennsylvania, possibly even billions, and on a national scale, hundreds of billions. So it seems to me this is a corporation. And one of the heads of that corporation, at least in the employee side, is your opponent and the incumbent. Tell me, you know, one of the cardinal rules, I don't have to tell you, you've done this before, about campaigning is that you don't talk about your opponent. You don't give them space. You don't give them extra press or extra publicity that, you know, they don't deserve. You focus on your campaign, but it's a little unrealistic, isn't it? You have to understand whom you're running against and understand their record and understand what they stand for, or, by the way, don't stand for, what they work for or don't work for, whom they work for or don't work for. My, you know, rebranding or relabeling of Republicans as a functioning corporation and not a political party. What are you have to run against Republicans, period. Tell me about your personal feelings, your political feelings, what your poli-sci studies tell you about what it is that you're actually running against.
Well, I mean, one, it's a dynasty. I mean, his dad was in the office for over 20 years. He's in office for over 20 years. So, I mean,
well, so he's already got his pension and lifetime health benefits. You're not going to be hurting. You're not going to be hurting him financially by having him removed from office.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, yeah.
He's not going to suffer.
But you know, one thing that's major. You're talking about like how things are. You know how they're kind of. You didn't say they were bought, but it is very alluded to.
Yeah.
So, you know, with that, you know,
well, it doesn't have to be bought though in the traditional sense, though, does it, Robert? I mean, if look, one of my favorite targets each and every single week here is the fossil fuel industry inside Pennsylvania.
Yes,
they receive in the neighborhood of $3.2 billion a year in free money. Tax subsidies, tax breaks, if not direct cash from the Commonwealth. That's your money. That's my money. Nationally, those subsidies they're reported to be in the $34 billion range. Senator Sanders has said in the past that in real dollars, in real economic effect, those subsidies are somewhere in the neighborhood of $500 billion. And globally, fossil fuel subsidies are in the area of $5.5 trillion. That's all money, our money, societal money. We are not a state, we are a commonwealth. That is the Commonwealth's money. William Penn didn't choose the word by accident. He chose it purposefully. We are the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. That's our money. What on earth could the Commonwealth do with an extra $3.2 billion laying around?
Well, you kind of did a segue there. So I guess to go back, the one thing with you're talking about the natural gas.
Well, the fossil fuel industries hand the Republic. I did get lost. You're right. I appreciate you redirecting me. I did get a little lost in my own train of thought there, but I don't think any of us think that it's as blatant. Maybe it is, but I don't think any of us think it's as blatant as a fossil fuel executive walking into Mr. Corman's office and laying a check on the desk.
No.
But there is campaign contributions, there's dark money contributions, there's advocacy ads, there's third-party ads, those ones at the end of the ad where it says not coordinated with any candidate or campaign, but oh, by the way, vote for Jay Corman. That kind of stuff. So that's corporations, that's employees and bosses to me.
Yeah, you have corporate PACs, which are an issue in themselves. Corporations shouldn't be involved in politics to that extent, at least not to that extent. It's like, obviously they should lobby for things that I have no problems with them talking to legislators. Corporations, they affect businesses and jobs. They should have some sort of voice, obviously. But, they shouldn't be doing $40,000 a year to a campaign. It's like that's corporate PACs are a problem.
Or the golf trips or
for Pennsylvania to be different, and it's like for lobbyists themselves, the laws aren't that bad. However, with gifts to legislators and to donations and for expenditures, there's a lot of issues there. Anybody can get a corporation can be like, we're going to give you 50-yard line seats at an Eagles game or a Steelers game. I would prefer Steelers, but they could do that, and it's fine as long as you report it. It's fine. My own take is that there should be a gift ban. Anything that's above $100 in value, not allowed to take it. I have no problem getting a fruit basket from a farm. I have no problem with someone giving me cookies from their grandmother. I think so. It's like $100 is a nominal amount, not going to sway you. But if you're getting trips to go out to California and speak at an event, that's not cool. It's just not right. And on top of that,
we posted all those articles when you did that.
Yeah. So Spotlight PA does wonderful work, and you can't talk about transparency and then not show where your expenditures are while you're in office. This is taxpayer money. Like you can't just be like, well, I spent it on supplies, $5,000. Be like, what supplies? Like, what are they? It's just, you can't just arbitrarily say numbers. And it's like, so if you're about transparency and actual governmental reform and legislature accountability, you need to have the laws in place to protect the interests of taxpayers. So with that, you can't be accepting gifts from corporations or individuals, for that matter, that are so exorbitant that you can't, like, it's just like the regular Joe down the street could not possibly afford those. It's not realistic to say that it's not swaying people. And then on top of that, if you're getting, let's say, $100,000 a year from different telecoms and cable companies, then you're kind of willing to overlook ways to help expand broadband. If you're getting paid $200,000 of campaign contributions by different fossil fuel industries, you're going to be kind of against expanding solar, even though that is the future job growth and is better for the environment. And, oh, by the way, helps improve our water quality indirectly. But
it's not even future job growth, Robert. I mean, a very simple Google search or a DuckDuckGo search, I happen to prefer, so my searches don't get traced. But a very simple Google search, if you just Google number of fossil fuel jobs in Pennsylvania, you get an answer. The last time I checked was in the 24,000 neighborhood. Not insignificant. Let's just be blunt. Not insignificant. That's a lot of folks. The Flyers would be lovely. The Flyers and Penguins both would love to have 24,000 every single night guaranteed. They'll take it. But if you do a second Google search that says number of green energy jobs in Pennsylvania. That number is already, the last I looked, which was, I will admit, was a few months ago. That number is already in the area of 95,000. That's more than three times, almost four times, just shy, four times the number of green energy jobs as there are fossil fuel jobs. Now, when gas is $3.25 a gallon, you know where the fossil fuel companies are getting the money for these donations. I am consistently fascinated that they have not begun the transition into green energy companies. That fascinates me. Fossil fuels are clearly 19th century technology. And the fact that these mega monster corporations have not decided to even take 1% of their net profits and begin to move themselves into green is a joke. But if you have to make the argument, I understand what you're saying, and it seems like very much like common sense. And I suppose it is common sense. If I take 20 grand from the fossil fuel industry, I'm probably going to be a hell of a lot more sympathetic. Well, you mentioned 200. But even if I took 20 grand from the fossil fuel industry, I'm going to be a hell of a lot more sympathetic to what they have to tell me. My office door is probably going to be a hell of a lot more open to them than the green sector, who hasn't given me any money. But how hard of a lift is, when we combine that, I guess, with the dynasty that you were speaking of, that there's been a corpsman in office up there for 40 years. Are these basic common sense arguments that you are able to make to your friends, neighbors, and as you campaign, travel, go to farmers markets, or even go into those counties that you mentioned that are 3-1 Republican? Aren't these common sense sort of arguments to make? Or do you find people receptive to it? Are you having difficulty with it? Tell me what your experience has been with these very, very clear, very visceral, very obvious arguments.
Some people don't realize how long some people are in office. And, it's one thing if you're in office a long time and you're very responsive. In the House level, you have Kerry Benioff's an example. His constituents, now, regardless of political beliefs, let's talk about constituent services. Very responsive to constituents. Like, give the man where credit's due. Like, he is responsive. The guy's called me on my cell phone like 3 or 4 times. Like, I'm not saying like I agree with his policies and everything, but the guy's really responsive. And it's like,
and it's part of the job.
That's part of the job. He does that part of the job exceptionally well. I'm not going to dismiss that. Like, I acknowledge that. But if you have a guy who's not doing that, but somehow been in office for 20 years, it doesn't matter if you're part of their party or not. Eventually, you start to notice it. And so there's a lot of people that are kind of getting sick of people being in office just because they're in office. On the federal level, they see it with, I'll just say Pelosi. They see it with Mitch McConnell. They see it with a lot of people, and they realize these people aren't changing. And that's where the problem is. If we want things to change.
Well, they might be changing them, right? They're getting more polarized. Mitch McConnell wasn't this polarized back in the 80s. The frightening fact is that he's been there since the 80s.
Yeah. It's just like, oh yeah, they're adapting to the changes. That's what's happening too. You mentioned about how people are more polarized, and they did a study. I forget the website, but it is like you have the left going more liberal and the right's going more conservative. Whereas about in the 1990s, early 2000s, it was pretty close to everyone was more or less in the middle. Some was a little bit more to the right, some a little bit more to the left, but now it's getting more polarized. And I mean, that's a whole different issue in itself. It's just like you're talking about like not only how society is changing, but also game theory in a way with what things are with politics. But from my experience, being open and honest and candid with people has gone a long way. I'm direct. I am who I am. Like, I don't fabricate what I am or who I am. And I know that my issues, frankly, will annoy people sometimes, or how I view on some things. But when it comes to, doing government reform where legislators can't be bought, or it's much harder to buy them, so to speak, or it's much harder for corporations to influence them, that kind of goes both ways. And, the one thing that I've learned about the Trump campaign, well, there's a couple of things I learned from it, but there's one of the things I've learned is
Some
that
of those lessons were very frightening, but
yeah,
we did learn a lot.
there's a lot of anti-establishment sentiment, and they really want something different. Period. And by they I mean the people. Everybody wants something so different, and I mean that's why when I think it was 2016 when about 2 million Bernie supporters voted for Trump over the establishment candidate. It's the other day I had somebody who messaged me. They said they wished I was um, a Republican, and they still supported me because of the fact that I'm not establishment. That's what somebody literally told me. And so you know,
And
that's
how
the
do
United
those
Front.
same voters justify voting for 40 years of Corman's?
How do they justify it? A lot of it's party loyalty. Like the one thing with Republicans is
But you can't do both. It sounds like I'm putting you on trial or putting you to, put yourself in the brains of these folks. And that's not exactly my intent, but you do live there. You know them way better than I do, even though I deal with them on a day-to-day basis. The folks in your particular district, you obviously know better, but you can't, I mean, don't these good folks understand that there can't be both? You can't be anti-establishment, but yet necessarily party loyal when it's been 40 years of one family representing the area. That is a political dynasty, but you can't have both. I can't claim myself to be open-minded and I just want the best person and et cetera, et cetera. And I know my elected official works for me, and then a vote for one who doesn't work for you and doesn't give a flying what whether you exist half the time. Yeah. Except on election day, and except that you're paying your taxes so rich people don't have to. It can't be both, can it?
No, it can't. But the one thing I've experienced, like from conversations with people, they didn't even realize how long this guy's been in office. And I'm not saying that to be dismissive or disrespectful or anything. It's just, it is. A lot of people don't realize that he's been in office for over 20 years. And there was a shift.
And the family's been there for 40.
Yeah. And there was a shift started 3 years ago, because I know it's kind of early, but 3 years ago when Ezra Naines was running, he made a lot of headway. Now the margin they lost by was 56 to 44, if I remember correctly, but that was the smallest margin of a loss in a while. So, I think he highlighted some things that we need to change. This guy's been in office for a while. One thing I used to say about people that have been in office a long time, it's more opportunity to be complacent. And I don't mean that. And once again, that doesn't apply to everybody. There are some legislators that do their job very well with constituent relations and that work with the people and engage with the people. In terms of that part of the job, they do their job very well. And there's a couple. There are there's a few of them out there that do a fantastic job at that, and that have been in office a long time. So I'm not bashing all the people that have been in a long time. But if there's a person that you don't know what they look like that represents you, or
you could bump into them in the grocery and not even know who they are,
or they've never been to your town that you can recall, and they've been in office for over 20 years, or they've never been in your county, or they've never been in your township, or they never there's some of these things where it's just that's a problem. And one thing that I've noticed with some state legislators, and once again, it's not all of them. I want to make clear it's not blanket. There's a lot of them that don't go to small towns and those small rural municipalities. I know because I live in one. I know these guys or people from their offices. I shouldn't say guys. These people. That's me. No, sorry, I was unintentionally misunderstood. But these people on both sides, they don't go to these nooks and crannies of rural areas to get an understanding of the issues and concerns that they have. And the guy I'm running against, I don't know the last time he's been out in Penns Valley. I have no idea. When I've been out here since 2012. I have never heard of him visiting my neck of the woods, personally. That's a problem.
I suspect you'll be getting some visits.
Maybe now.
This is not exactly the most popular way for someone like you to campaign. But when you have these discussions,
Mm-hmm.
And folks, again, good, decent, salt of the earth folks tell you these exceptionally contradictory things. Like, well, I'm anti-establishment and we need something different, except I've pulled the lever for the same two men for 40 years. I mean, do they recognize that bit of hypocrisy? Do they recognize that they're not acting in a way consistent with what they're talking about? And perhaps even more difficult of a question would be, at what point, and this is where we get into, this not being very, very popular campaigning tactic, but at what point do folks get exactly the government they deserve?
Yeah, that's a loaded question. You're looking at, some people they pull down based on the party, and that's not the way it should be. It's not. And that you're going to change gears a little bit. You're kind of touching on an issue where, like, fair and equal elections. That's Article 1, Section 5 of the Constitution, PA Constitution. So with that, if everything was truly fair, third parties would have the same standard to go on the ballot. Challenger parties. Ken Krawcheck, who ran for governor in 2018, he likes to call third parties challenger parties. So I like that term. But, challenger parties, if it was truly fair and equal, they would have the same requirements or similar requirements, within like an acceptable ballpark. For signatures, it's easy. But they have to go off a certain population of people that voted. So in certain districts, they'll need like 1,000 signatures when they really are supposed to have 500 or 300. And that's not fair. So you're kind of getting in a whole different area with that too, to try to get what people truly represents the people. And I'm not saying that libertarians or the Green Party are all of a sudden going to get like 15 seats each or something crazy. Like it doesn't happen like that. It doesn't happen instantly like that.
We don't have a parliamentary system in this country. We're never going to.
Yeah, it's just not
certainly not in the next century.
Yeah, it's like the way to change the system slowly would be have ranked voter choice, which is they're starting to do in Maine. They've been doing it in Alaska, a few other places, and successfully.
And we've all witnessed the real show that New York City's primary turned out to be. That was ranked choice voting as well. But it took them 3 weeks to determine who won.
Well, and they never did before either. There's a big learning curve for like the biggest city in the entire U.S. Go big or go home, I guess. But but to touch on what you had said before, it's like some of these people, when they realize that they're like, well, I don't want the establishment, it's like, well, then why do you keep voting for it? And it just doesn't really click until you point that out, and with a blunt statement. And I'm not saying it to be mean. I'm just saying, I'm not just like, hey, well, then why do you vote for it if you're against it? And sometimes they don't realize it. They just don't think about it. And it's just, now to get to the system we deserve, ranked choice voting, I think it's a good step in the right direction. I think making it so everyone automatically enrolls unless they choose to opt out for any government ID. They're going to be like, hey, you want to go ahead and vote? And be like, nah, I'm good. You fill out the box. Making it easier to enroll for voting. And mail-in ballots. Like, I think like no restrictions, mail-in ballots, I think, are legitimate and a good way to do things. It's been happening in Oregon for over a decade. It's like how much voter fraud have you done in Oregon?
They've had pure one across the board mail-in voting for, it might even be longer than a decade. I want to say it's 20 years, and it's just worked flawlessly, and it's increased voter participation as well.
Yes.
I believe voter participation in Oregon is in the 75+% range. It might even be higher. Like you, I'm working on figures out of my brain. There is some gray matter up there that still functions. I do want to say that voter participation in Oregon is in the 3/4+ range, which, the last, for all of the congratulations and flower bouquets we threw at ourselves as Americans for the 2020 presidential election, it was still, I believe, only a participation rate of 56% 66%, 60%.
I think it's around 60. I can't remember for sure.
64%, maybe.
It was around 60.
Which is still not. I mean, it is what it is. It's not 100. It's not 90. It's not even 70. We have minority percentages of our population choosing who runs the country. And that's never a good thing. I don't care what party you're talking about. I don't care what political philosophy you're talking about. When a minority of people choose all the leadership, it's not a good thing. It just isn't. We should be doing everything possible to get that participation rate at 95% or higher. The more people whose voices are heard, the more legitimate these elections are, insofar as legitimacy, meaning that all demographics, all opinions, all points of view are being represented because we're all throwing our votes into the hat to be counted. 6:03 p.m. Eastern Time here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and you are watching and listening to the Kennedy Effect live for the 18th of July, 2021. Robert Zeigler is our guest. He is the Democratic candidate for the Pennsylvania State Senate from District 34. Wherever you might be watching on Facebook, stay there, enjoy. We appreciate it to every group and page and person and individual. I just got a little lump in my throat right there. It was so emotional. Wherever you might be watching, all the groups, all the pages, all the individuals, all our friends who share this program onto their little slice of the universe, their little slice of the Facebook universe. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. We mean it genuinely. Stay right there. Enjoy the program. However, if you would like to come over to our home group Facebook page, I've seen one question in there, which was actually George. You could have just turned the mic on and asked your question, George. It's perfectly fine. You have questions, you have comments, you want to join the conversation. Come to the home group Facebook page, that other side of information. Tap on the program. It's right there in the timeline. Expand it. You will see the comments. Join us there. To our friends and family at hot101.net, thank you for being with us yet again, yet another Sunday. We appreciate you allowing us into your lives. However you are consuming hot101.net, laptop, tablet, phone, smart speakers, Bluetooth in the car, however it is that you're listening to us, we are simply glad that you are doing so. If you have never listened to hot101.net or you do not know how to, first off, you don't know what you're missing. Great entertainment all week long. And if you don't know how to listen, the main website, hot101.net, Apple App Store, Google Play Store for Android, and the TuneIn Radio app, or I guess you could tell your Alexa to play hot101.net. To our friends and family at TCP, glad to be with you for our second big week. A great and wonderful new partnership with the good, decent folks at TCP. You can watch TCP on Facebook on their Roku channel, and you can listen to WTCP globally, worldwide internet radio. Be a part of the family. We are proud to be part of their family, proud to have their family part of us. You can come to that other side of information. We've been sharing all the videos we can from TCP. It's a full partnership, and we're thrilled to be a part of it. You can email thatotherkennedy@gmail.com. Tweet us at that Kennedy Talk. I almost got my own Twitter handle wrong, at that Kennedy Talk. If you miss any of today's program, go to our YouTube channel, That Other Side of Information. And if you're watching the program right now, anywhere that you might be watching on Facebook, you will see on your screen the phone number is there for you to call us. We hope that you do and that you take part in the program. 267-227-9189, 267-227-9189, 267-227-9189 is the phone number. It's there and ready and waiting for you. Robert, at the risk of asking one of these terribly standard interviewee type questions, Every candidate has a top 3 or maybe a top 5 of issues that they really, really focus on in a campaign. Other issues come up as the news cycle changes or as events happen, or maybe a big issue leads us down the rabbit hole a little bit into different issues or smaller issues, or they branch out into different things. But I'm sure you have 3 to 5 big issues that you're basing your campaign on. I would assume broadband and green energy are in there somewhere because you've worked on them so extensively. But what are the big Robert Zeigler issues that you are taking to the people of the 34th to say, this is me, here's how I'm different, and here's why I want your support?
So that's well, there's a lot of different issues I want to focus on, but one of which is just accountability in government. The reason being is if there isn't, let's say, right to know requests for legislative communications, that's not allowed currently. So kind of can't hold them accountable if you don't know what they're talking about. And I understand like contract negotiations or negotiating bills at the time. Obviously you can't let the public get that because that takes away any leverage or any negotiation capability. I understand that. But me, as a councilman, all my emails, government-related emails, are right to know requestable. I'm not sure that's the term, but you can request the right to know them and get them, just a simple request. You can't do that to the state legislators. It's legislative privilege, which I just don't agree with that. Like I said about gift bans, that's another issue, like relating to that. Trying to make it so that districting is done by a nonpartisan committee and eliminate the politician's influence in it, just completely someone else. I mean, at this point, you can use a computer program. I think they did a trial run with that before, and it showed to be a bit more fair. It wasn't perfect because, I mean, you're dealing with all these demographics and all these stipulations. It's never going to be perfect. But if you get something that's like, well, you know what, it's not perfect, but it's an A-, I think that's pretty good comparatively what we've got now. And just limiting this conflict of interest, like, corporate PACs, I don't think should be a thing. I don't think any of that money should be allowed in the state. I don't feel that you should give a corporation like, I'm just picking Verizon, so don't. Yeah, I pick Verizon. They're
not hard. They're giving plenty of money to everybody all over the country.
Yeah, they give money to everybody, but they should have more of a say than 250 of your constituents in a small rural community. Doesn't make any sense. And why? That's not who you represent. You represent the people. So I think that's one of the focuses is actual substantive legislative reform within the people that you vote for. Another one involves I call it investment in the future. So this is kind of a lot of things, but I call it cost of living increases instead of minimum wage. I call it cost of living increases because that's really what it is. And addressing that, a lot of people say $15 minimum wage. And how do we pay for that? Well, it's one of those things where if we close the Delaware tax loophole where companies are in Pennsylvania for the entire year, except for the one day it's tax day where they're in Delaware, and that's going to give $700 million to the state in revenue. To your point with the fossil fuel industry, about $3.2 billion, right? Guess what? You guys don't get those breaks anymore, and you have to adapt, right? Because if people truly want a free market economy or a better free market economy, then why are they giving all these tax breaks and tax credits and all this money to them? So there's $4 billion right now.
Thank God you said that. I think in my political consulting work, I tell every candidate that I talk to, every single damn one of them, that one of the great winning strategies and issues, if you will, ever is hypocrisy. Hypocrisy's always a winner. Always. Because it's something simple. Everyone can grasp it. Everyone can understand it. Whether you are the most dyed-in-the-wool Republican or the most progressive New Deal Democrat you could possibly think of, and I would include myself in that group, everyone can understand hypocrisy. Republicans love to scream and cry and worship at the altar of the quote-unquote free market. We can't help green energy technology companies because that's not the free market. Well, it seems to me that 3.2 billion a year to an industry that is dying literally and already has, by the way, poisoned and then walked away from countless municipalities inside Pennsylvania itself who extract the wealth directly out from under our feet. Never pay a dime for it. Send it overseas through pipelines running under our grounds and poisoning them, by the way. But we give them free money for the privilege to do so. What is exactly free about that market other than the free 3.2 billion? But what's free about that market?
It's not. It simply is just not.
No, and my answer is the reason for me asking you a bunch of these seemingly obvious questions is because I want you to try to expand on them. Tell people whether there's folks right now watching inside the 34th or across Pennsylvania or across the country, around the globe. I understand that it's an obvious question. Yeah. But you have a whole segment of our Commonwealth that still doesn't see the obviousness of that it can't be a free market when you're propping it up. And it goes back to what we were speaking about in the last half hour. You can't tell me you want a free market when you prop it up with that money that could be used for goodness knows in Pennsylvania, quite literally, probably 1,000 other things. You can't tell me you want to break the establishment and then vote for it. You can't tell me my senator doesn't know who I am. I've never seen him. He never comes here, and then vote for him again. So damn it, you can't talk about, I believe in the free market and then prop it up.
Yeah, you're right. And the thing is, you have two schools of people in that regard. You have the people that simply just don't know. They're just not educated on it. And that's a lot because they're told these things and they believe it because that's my party or that's my legislator, or that's my whatever. My dad's told me this, et cetera, et cetera. Indoctrination is a little bit stronger word, but it's like, when you're told so many things so many times, eventually you believe it anyway, even if it's not true. So you have those that need to be educated on the actual facts. And then there's some people
indoctrination might be a strong word. It might be almost a apocalyptic type, science fiction-y type, dystopian type word. But what else would you call it? If I have a so-called news network telling me 24/7 that if you just keep giving more and more billions to the billionaires, it's good for you. Well, the fact of the matter is your tax contribution, your taxes, period, real dollars, percentage of income, every measure you can possibly fathom, for the 99% since Reagan came to power has gone up. You pay more taxes now, period. Corporations used to fund almost a third of the federal government. They now fund about 6% of it. Who the hell do you think made up the money? You did. And you keep voting for the people that are doing that to you.
Yeah. Well, and voting for people against their own interests it's because of the spread of misinformation. And that happens a lot. So the way to fight misinformation is to educate people and communicate with them. And the one thing with Democrats that is troubling in rural areas, they don't really know how to communicate well with rural people. And I'm not saying that to be disrespectful. It's just,
the results show it.
The results show it. There's something that's going wrong in the message.
The counties where you are, for decades and decades and decades, especially following the New Deal and the end of the Republican Great Depression of the 30s, these were solidly Democratic counties. Democrats are the party of the working people. Republicans are the party of business. And these were solidly Democratic areas. Pennsylvania was a solidly Democratic state. Of course, there were Republicans that were elected, absolutely. But we're also talking about a time where Democrats and Republicans wanted the same end point, but just disagreed on how we were going to get there. We don't have that now. We now have, I say this all the time, it's because I'm growing an extensive list of cliches, but one of my cliches is that there's two parties left. There really isn't. There's one. We're the only ones trying. The Democratic Party may not be perfect, but we're literally the only ones even trying. We're the only ones interested in governing. We're the only ones interested in policy. We're the only ones interested in science. We're the only ones interested in education. We're the only ones interested in voting. And isn't self-interest, because I think people I think there's an element of people that is naturally standoffish to the thought of self-interest as being selfish. But when 99% of the people want something, or it's in their best interest, then it's not selfish and it's not self-interest. It then becomes the common good. Does it not? I know that was a lot. I laid a lot on your plate there on that one, but I mean, generally, if we go from the specifics of the policy to more of an umbrella type look, the proverbial 10,000 foot view of it, does any of that strike you as accurate? Do you think I'm wrong? Tell me.
So, I mean, the way I see it, I think the Republican Party is really going in two different directions. You have, I call them Eisenhower Republicans.
Right. Well, I do.
And it's like, they believe in infrastructure. They think that, we need to watch out for the mom and pops and the working man, and the farmers need to be taken care of. We need to create some more ag programs. We need business innovation for tourism. They're fine with investing in infrastructure, water, sewer, all that. And they're like, conservative people do believe in conserving the environment. Like that's
the root word of conservative is conserve.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I call them Eisenhower Republicans. I think it's fairly accurate because back in the 50s, Eisenhower was all about investing in the infrastructure to help make society better as a whole. And it's just, he arguably one of the best presidents too. And because he built that.
By and large, a two-term, at least self-identified Republican, he didn't always act like one.
Yeah.
Sometimes he did. Sometimes he absolutely did, but sometimes he didn't. I think you can make the historical argument that the 8 years of Eisenhower were an extension of Roosevelt to a great extent.
Yeah, arguably.
He expanded Social Security, he ran for re-election under the platform that I expanded Social Security. We put more money into it. We expanded the number of people in unions. We built the Eisenhower Interstate Highway System, a massive, massive infrastructure project to take returning GIs who didn't have work and put them back to work.
Yeah, and it's like, look at what it did for the economy and the economic growth that drove through the 60s. The 60s, arguably, in terms of economic scale, one of the strongest economic decades in the entire country in history. Arguably, I mean, they're the middle class.
The Eisenhower Interstate Highway System returned up to $12 back into the economy for every dollar spent to build it. The GI Bill, I've seen varying statistics, so it's a rather wide berth, folks. Give me a little latitude here. The GI Bill returned anywhere from $7 to $12 for every dollar that was put into it.
Yeah, it's when you invest in your society and the infrastructure that holds it, the return is higher than anything else. It's just like when you invest in education. You invest if I remember right, the two parts of government investment that gets the highest amount of return that's positive is infrastructure is number one, education is number two in terms of the society. Now, education takes a little bit longer to see the returns of, because the infrastructure is pretty immediate. Once it's done, you can see the returns. But that's what happened to that focus.
Rich people stopped wanting to pay for it. or at least pay their contribution toward it.
Well, and that's when
I don't think it's anything more complicated than that. Rich folks decided we paid for the post-war expansion. We paid for the New Deal. You did, because you had the money. The idea of a progressive tax system, as you well know, goes back to Jefferson and Madison themselves. And when we come back, in an odd way to circle and talk about the dynasty that is the 34th district, it was Madison and Jefferson that said they fought for a progressive tax system. They fought for tariffs. They fought for the estate tax. They fought for the inheritance tax to, and I quote, prevent the establishment of a permanent upper class. It's quite literally one of the reasons the revolution itself was fought, that a tiny, tiny few had all the money and exploited everybody else. If you consider yourself Republican and believe in quote unquote freedom, that's what freedom is, isn't it? The economic ability to take care of yourself. That's what true freedom is. When FDR introduced the Second Bill of Rights, it was the 4 freedoms: the freedom from debt, the freedom from economic stress, the Economic Bill of Rights, the ability to provide yourself a home, to see a doctor, even take a vacation, to be able to pay for education if it had to be paid for at all. By and large, in that era, you didn't have to pay for education. I mean, these are things that, Kristen often talks about, that we have to stop talking about issues and talk about values as Democrats, because we're looked at as a valueless party. They're the anti-religion party. Well, what's a better value than being able to look at one of the folks that you live next to, whether they're literally next door to you or the next town over or the next county over, and say, I want you to have a job. That's a value. I want you to have a job. I want you to be able to afford to be able to see a doctor. I don't want your kid's classroom to be collapsing in around them and have 40 kids in it. At the same time, a charter school's advertising on the radio, oh, but they're not profit. I mean, is that the message that Democrats are missing in rural Pennsylvania or rural areas across the country, to be honest? We're not talking about the values of our policies.
Yeah, I mean, that is a gap that's being missed. And it's just, and just open and honest dialogue, being direct about things. One thing that I hear out here a lot, and I could see it to some extent, I could see it the opposite way. But a lot of people out here on the more right end of the political spectrum often say about how Dems don't have a backbone. They don't say that about me. I'm a pretty outspoken guy. Like they don't call me a snowflake. But the one thing is they know that Dems are more willing to compromise, and so they just dig their heels in. They just try to. It's like a war of attrition. In their mind, that's what it is. Take a look at the state where it's like $10 billion, $10 billion, $3 billion of which was a surplus that they didn't expect to have, roughly. I'm once again rounding for simplicity's sake.
These are CARES Act funds, I believe.
Yeah, $7 billion was CARES Act, about 7.4. So I just say 7 because it's rounding purposes. But so they're used $2.5 billion to shore up things like, okay, yeah, we'll throw some extra money to the school districts. Yeah, we'll do this.
For 1 year, by the way.
For 1 year.
Not in perpetuity, just for 1 year.
For 1 year. And then instead of addressing these issues, such as, once again, you're talked about the subsidizing fossil fuels, instead of fixing long-term issues, and they kept $5 billion to use for whatever, which Lord knows how that's going to work.
I agree with you, because I think folks for the most part are going to forget that quote. It's been labeled as a rainy day fund. I think it's a slush fund, to be honest. And I think folks are going to forget that it's there. And when we have a little pet project or a little pet something that we need we have a Republican candidate who's in a little bit of trouble in an area, I'll throw a nice infrastructure project in there and give him or her credit for it, and then see how many votes we can drag along with that little quote unquote investment. And I think a good chunk of that $5 billion might end up in the pockets of these for-profit charter schools at some point.
And then you had $2.5 billion that just went literally to the rainy day fund. And it's just, the purpose of revenue from the CARES Act was to reinvest or to shore up against like what had happened. So lost revenue. We didn't have lost revenue. We literally didn't have. We had a surplus. We may not way better than we expected. We should invest that into the people and help build up that middle class, or to help resolve some of these issues. It's like, for that amount of money, these school districts that are disproportionately affected by, it's not a fair system. It's gotten better in the last few years, but comparatively to where it was,
still far from fair.
But
as long as funding, as long as school funding is based on property taxes, it's never going to be fair and equal.
Exactly, and it favors areas where there are more rich people, which, speaking in terms of demographics, tend to be white. It is. It's just the statistics of it. But I digress. Just throwing $100 $1 million.
The whole program is a series of digressions, Robert. Don't worry about it. So the whole
it's was it?
It's what our whole show is based on, is a series of digressions and rabbit holes and branches on a tree.
One thing that you'd probably be interested in, if you haven't seen it, it's called Segregation by Design, and it talks about how the housing market affected everything and how it disproportionately affected people of color, specifically Black people, compared to white people, especially even with the GI Bill and everything. But that's, once again, it's a whole nother issue, whole nother topic.
Right. Redlining.
But the 100 poorest schools each get $1 million. Well, that's great. That helps them out. However, if you were to fix this more long term and put a plan in place for multiple years, these schools that are in poorer areas, a lot of which are rural areas, which are predominantly white, so it would benefit them to do this. And they're in, by the way, a lot of Republican districts. It would be in their best interest to resolve this issue with the budgets. But instead, we have $5 billion that who's going to be used for who knows what. I don't know. We could fix all these bridges that we have in the state. We could fix a lot of these roads in the state. Like, we are still ranked one of the worst states in highways by truckers. I forget the name of the actual study, but they actually have a poll that truckers do every year, and Pennsylvania is constantly in the 45th through 50th ranks for the worst highways, state highways. I mean, they could fix this, and that would provide so many jobs. And all the jobs then, which would be prevailing wage jobs, would then put more income tax into the coffers and provide more income for people, which then gets more disposable income into the economy, and it's an upward cycle. That's how it works. That's how the economy works. And they just refuse to invest in people to make it so they have more discretionary income to put back in the economy. They want to make Pennsylvania a leader. What they need to do is, one, push for a higher cost of living wages, I call it. And two, stop giving corporations tax breaks and loopholes to exploit to fix that long-term financial issue. You do those two things, the economy will be humming, going along great, and financial issues would never be a thing, and we could fully fund schools the way we should.
But you and I know that. It's common sense, it seems to me. It's absolute common sense. But that lack of understanding, and quite frankly, it's probably not a lack of understanding as much as it is a lack of just willingness by Republicans to do any of the things that you've just listed. How does that not just outright show where their priorities lie? And then why is it so difficult to make that argument on occasion in rural areas when it is absolutely clear, if you even pay passive attention to what's going on, that this is exactly what Republicans are for? Not you, but a very precious tiny few that already have nearly all the money. The four richest people in the country, in the entire nation, the four richest people have as much wealth as the bottom 200 million. Why is this such a hard argument in rural areas? Why is the obvious such a hard argument?
Well, I mean, part of it's outreach. I mean, that's just part of it. And it's communication, the way of communication. So when it comes down to like, I forget the name of the book, but there's Republicans are very good at hitting all the points of that gets to people. They're very good at hitting like the whole like nationalism, like loyalty, like this is good for the country, blah blah blah. They talk about that. They will also talk about family values and the family life and how this affects the family life. They will talk about loyalty. It's like we're going to have this flag pin on my lapel here, and they talk about that. They talk to some extent about equity, but they kind of avoid that. Now, Democrats, on the other hand, they're very good about talking about we need to make things equal and fair and all that. And it's once again, this is in general, so don't take it as like a specific thing. It's just in terms of messaging, Democrats don't hit all the emotional points of communication to get a message across about an issue. That's what happens, because when you're talking about raising the minimum wage, how often do you hear Democrats talking specifically about how it affects family values and family life, comparatively to Republicans when they say about bills, similar verbiage? Democrats don't talk enough about it. I have a feeling that if you had that, you kept hammering that point, you'd make a lot more headway. That's why I call it cost of living increase instead of a wage increase. Because the cost of living affects the family values. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. The minimum wage, of course, or Robert's living wage, which is a nice way to cast it, really, is still $7.25 an hour here in Pennsylvania. None of our neighbors are that low, including some deep red states like Ohio and West Virginia. They all have higher minimum wages than us. The minimum wage, the fight for 15 in and of itself, I understand. It's a nice bumper sticker, et cetera, et cetera. But even $15 only puts a person about $2,000 above the federal poverty wage. The minimum wage, had it kept track with worker productivity, it would be about $23 an hour. If it had simply seen the regularly scheduled raises at the federal level that it was seeing, would be, I believe, in the $20 range. And if it had kept pace with CEO pay, it would be $35 an hour. Now that's real living.
Well, and that is a case against taxation of corporations and on income. Like you're kind of tying in back to our previously in our discussion. When the 60s, the income taxes for the upper top people was around 90%. Like we'll just say 90 for simplicity's sake. I know some years it was 94. So and that's on the top part of their income. Corporations paid around 50% tax. If you are taxed higher and you know that your businesses, the profits you're making, half of it's going to go to Uncle Sam, that motivates you, one, to create more jobs, two, pay people better, three, give them better benefits, and indirectly, it makes it so you're not going to pay a CEO an exorbitant amount of money because they're going to lose more money in taxation. So what this does is help spur better economic growth as a whole, because you're spreading out the taxation rate. Yes, it can be considered high, but when you see 9%, they're thinking all the money gets taxed at that rate.
Right. We talk about this every week, the truth of what the actual 91% top marginal tax rate meant.
Yeah. But it's like, no. All the tax rates are for they have all that money that the regular everyday folks have. It's just all that extra money. I mean, you take Jeff Bezos with his $100 billions of wealth and compare it to the regular average Joe.
But even that is largely stock because he pays then, if he decides to cash in any of that stock, to pay for things like space flights, he's only paying 15% capital gains on that.
Yeah,
Not the 35 point something top marginal tax rate that there is now, or the 91% that he should be paying, because it's not cash income, it's payment in stock and stock dividends. And of course, we've rigged the system that rich folks only pay 15% on their capital gains, not the 35 that they used to pay before Reagan came to power.
Yeah, and they also don't pay any transaction fees really otherwise, or taxes on the transaction fees. So someone who's a really good day trader by chance, I'm just throwing that out there, if they're paying 0.1% on all their transaction dollars, you know what, they'd probably be doing a little bit less transactions, and that'd be barely effective at all. And that'd be a quick way to generate some revenue. Let's say finance the IRS.
In fact, the electronic transaction tax that Senator Sanders has proposed, which would, by the way, be a reintroduction of the transaction tax. We used to have a stock transfer tax in this country. It was part of the recovery out of the New Deal. It was part of the restrictions. Restrictions probably not the right word. It was part of the guide rails that were put on Wall Street following the Great Crash and following the Republican Great Depression. It was the transaction tax was part of those regulations. So we've had this before, but Senator Sanders has suggested and continues to do, by the way, continues to lobby for the institution, or dare I say reinstitution, but the institution of an electronic stock transfer tax, because so many of the modern stock trades are done automatically by a series of computer servers. They're triggered automatically if the market goes down too low. They're triggered automatically by companies if the stock price goes down too low, and on and on and on, of 1/100th of 1%, 0.01. And he has said that over the course of 5 years, it could raise the federal government as much as $1 trillion, which, by the way, goes to show you just how many stock transactions are happening. So we've done this before. We can do this. We've done it before. We can do this again. I'm fascinated. And it seems that our discussion has seemed to settle into this kind of little trough, so to speak, or the comfortable part of the pillow, so to speak, of why can't rural folks see this? This isn't difficult. What am I missing?
It is the messaging. It is the messaging. I'm telling you, that's what it is. And it's the constant.
But you're having these discussions and people are listening to you. What are you doing that's so horribly different that the national party or the state party isn't doing? Is it the one-on-one? Is it the plain language? Is it or that you already have an existing relationship with so many folks? What are you able to accomplish that the national folks and the state folks clearly are not doing? Then again, you're making an effort. They're not exactly doing that. But what am I missing? I'm actually on it. I'm actually asking you on two reasons for the audience's intake, but also what am I missing? Because I don't see it. Well, I guess I just don't get it.
For me, I just have the conversations and I just don't back down from the views. You know, a lot of people create, like, especially on social media, they'll create these like bubbles, these like social bubbles where that guy voted for Trump. I'm going to unfriend him. Or, so-and-so did this. I'm not dealing with it. And I guess, like, in a way, it's cancel culture. In a way. It's kind of what it is. But
self-protection, a little self-insulation.
Yeah. But it's
not productive.
It's not productive. Echo chambers are not good for democracy. One side or the other. Either way. And it's just like you need to have those voices, to have those discussions, to bring those different views, even if you don't agree with them. And it's like, the art of talking. Let's be honest. It seems like both parties kind of lost that art of talking, really. And for me, like, I don't have an agenda. Like, I don't have any. My goal is to make things better for my kids and better for my community. I can really care less about, like, oh, your viewpoint is this, and now I'm done talking to you. I'm not going to do that. Like, if we are to come to a better understanding, we need to have these actual conversations instead of these two guys on the screen yelling at each other. And it's like Hannity and Combs with that show. And it's just like people just bicker and yell at each other. I was like, well, how is this productive? And I'm not saying like, some people some people you just can't get no matter what. And I call them, it's willful choice that they are that way. But there's a lot of people who simply just don't know. Like for example, I have 2 kids. They're black. They're my stepsons. And some people out here use a term that's from the 50s that's not meant as offensive because that was the proper term in the 50s. However, that relates to segregation. And some people just did not know. So I took the opportunity to tell them, hey, just so you know, we don't use that term anymore. Most people of color, especially if they're black, prefer to be called black, maybe African American. Everyone's a little bit different with their preference. My kids prefer to be called black. It's just the way it is. And they're like, oh, I didn't know that because to be honest, I don't know any black people. It's just they legitimate ignorance. And by ignorance, I mean they just didn't know. And so those type of discussions are necessary to have because some people do not know. They just don't because they're not exposed to it or they don't actually deal with it in their daily lives or they're too busy doing things at home. If you're too busy, like if you're farming, that's grueling work. Even with the technology now, it's still pretty grueling work and time consuming. And it's like you don't really have much time to do research. And then on top of that, if you don't have good broadband access, you can't research it on your own quickly to become informed. So, what works is just being direct and honest with myself as well as other people and being willing to admit that I'm wrong about something. If somebody gives me actual facts that prove my point wrong or may not be as good as I think it is, being open to that. Like, man, you know how many people that I run across that cannot admit that they're wrong at something?
Yeah, because I meet them every day. Sadly, they're on one side of the aisle.
So, I mean, it works well for me. And that's because I'm willing to be confrontational, but with respect. And I think that's one thing that's like, why I've noticed from some peers is they don't like that confrontation. But the thing is, if it's done with respect and integrity, you're going to get at least respect of the other side for that. And then that's your in, is to have the respect. I don't know if that really answers your question, Jeff, but I think that's pretty much the best answer I can give you.
No, but I fancied myself that kind of person as well, is that we can't allow the lies. We can't allow the disinformation. When somebody stands up and says, tax cuts for rich people help everybody else. No, it's just simply untrue. There's no science or data that shows that that's correct. And it's never been correct, ever. It was part of the fall of the Roman Empire when the Senate and the patricians and the rich decided that why are we paying for this army? Why are we paying for all these wars when everybody else could be paying for them? It goes back that far. And there's literally no evidence whatsoever that trickle down as an actual policy position works. And yeah, I find myself in those, dare I say, respectful, confrontational conversations all the time, but it's about, and I don't understand why we've lost in an area of our Commonwealth that is so clearly should be and would benefit from once again returning to voting for policies and people that would just help them in so many different ways. I find the disconnect so maddening and so inexplicable that I find it difficult to even I can't fathom it. When I guess that's where I get flustered is when I don't want to say I lose hope, because I never really lose hope to a point, but when the facts are in front of you, and maybe that's where I lose the respectful part of my argument, to be fair, to be perfectly self-reflective. Maybe that's where I lose the respectful part of my confrontation floats away.
Now, the facts are in front of you. You've chosen to be willfully ignorant. You've chosen to listen to what you're being told rather than what you probably know you believe. Because a multi-millionaire, bordering on billionaire, like Sean Hannity tells you, corporate taxes aren't good for you. Rich people paying taxes aren't good for you. Schools aren't good for you. Good roads aren't good for you. I don't know how you deal with that, because somewhere on a common sense level, I still believe that the majority of these folks, there's always going to be a percentage that are just out. Let's just be blunt. I'm sure you see them every day. You can tell from the posts and the arguments that I'm just not reaching that person. Yeah. But I think most people still know on some internal level, I do know that these policies don't work for me. But I'm so damn consumed with the guns in my attic. Well, gee, and I've told folks like that. And no, I'm sure I didn't win the argument. I'm sure I didn't win any respect from them. Can you eat the guns in your attic? Are the guns in your attic paying to take you to the doctor? Are they taking the lead pipes and the asbestos out of your school? And taking that class size from, and that's a big one for me, from 40 or 30 down to the 15 or 18 that it should be, just so you can have a shotgun in your attic, then you're twisted somehow. Then your priorities are absolutely upside down.
Yeah, that whole myth of like all the Democrats want to take away guns. Like realistically, like last few years, during the Trump administration has had more gun restrictions at the federal level than any Democrats had in a while. Like the bump stock restrictions,
right?
So it's like, and then
which is a common sense restriction, by the way.
Yeah, and then on top of that, like when did they start talking about gun control? Is when the Black Panthers started arming themselves. Well, let's be real.
You had open carry of long rifles in California until the Black Panthers showed up in Sacramento and scared the hell out of Ronald Reagan. They changed the law in 3 weeks.
Yeah, and
the original snowflake, by the way.
Yeah, but at any rate, it's like, you're talking about gun control. It's like where I live, it's like a lot of Democrats have guns. Like there's one guy who's independent, leans to Democrat, who used to be capable of being a sharpshooter.
Mm-hmm.
There's another guy who's a liberal, like very liberal minded guy, does fishing and shooting, shoots on a regular basis. It's like this whole myth that like Democrats are going to take guns always leads to the NRA funneling money to Republicans because they're like, oh, they're going to take away our guns. And then on top of that, then it's just like they're like, oh, all these gun sales increase because they're afraid that all these guns are going to be taken away. It doesn't happen. When has it happened? When has it happened in our history? It doesn't. It's just a myth that's perpetuated to help the gun industry make some more money, to push the NRA to push more funds to the Republicans' pockets.
Are you still waiting for the black suited UN troops that President Obama was going to send door to door across the country, taking all the guns away? You still waiting for them? Because I'm still waiting.
Yeah, right.
I haven't seen them.
I haven't seen them.
I never saw them.
And
I imagine they're still on the way. I really don't know.
Oh, it's like was it a while ago? They had Beto O'Rourke where he like had like a clip that they took out saying, all the Dems are going to take all the guns. And I was like, I'm pretty sure he's being sarcastic in this statement. Like, he's from Texas. It's just not going to happen. Like it's like, I don't get all these myths that are perpetuated about Democrats. It's just insane. It is insane. But there's no active, like Fox News, there's no active pushback on a different network.
I agree.
To help like go.
MSNBC is not the equal and opposite of Fox. It simply isn't.
No.
But I'm not sure you could have an equal and opposite, a mirrored reflection, of Fox, because they flat out lie. So I don't know that you can have an absolute opposite rebuttal to that, or even more so, a counterattack to it, because we just tend not to lie.
And the thing that helps counteract that is when legislators are honest and direct. And a job of an elected official is to fight against misinformation. That to me is part of the duty of an elected official, regardless of level. You fight against misinformation all the time. There's not enough vocal leaders doing that on a regular basis. Thinking of Bernie Sanders and AOC. A lot of conservatives I know don't believe their viewpoints. What they do like about those people is that they are very strong in their beliefs and that they're very vocal about it and they push back. That's what they like. Like, I know some people out here that voted for Trump that would vote for Bernie if he was in office instead of Trump. I know some people that think, oh, Bernie Sanders is great. And I'm like, well, I'm going to vote third party because I don't want anybody. Or there's a lot of surprisingly high support for Bernie because he is who he is. And how many people have said that about Trump?
Well, they do say he is who he is, and he sure as hell is.
Yeah.
But yeah, they don't seem to have the same level of comfort from it, or hopefully they have more of an air of disgust. I wish they had more of an air of disgust than they have. 267-227-9189 is the phone number. 267-227-9189. 227. I just said it 3 times straight and suddenly forgot the number on my 4th try. And that it just, it is what it is, folks. It happens on occasion. We get a little hiccup there in the old gray matter. 267-227-9189. 267-227-9189. And when we cross the top of the hour, Robert, we can get into the other issues that you want to highlight. But I do think this to try to close out, if we could, sort of this, the issue of accountability, corruption, constituent services, actually representing the people that voted for you, and even more so those that didn't. I mean, do folks, even the ones that might support Mr. Corman, do they genuinely feel represented? It's something that I deal with the candidates that I work with all the time, and encourage them to use as an active campaigning slogan or campaign tool. I'm running to represent you because no one is right now. I'm sorry, especially in the red areas, and to be blunt, in some of the blue areas. I would say not as many, but I'm very biased. Let's just be blunt. I'm a Democrat. I'm biased. I get it. But even in some of the blue areas, but in way more of the red areas, I don't think there's a farmer in your area, if they were being intellectually and personally honest with you, could say that my Republican representatives have made my life better. I don't think there's a damn one of them. Not a single one. When they want to take fracking water and pour it on roads, that's all going to drip into farm fields eventually, or into the streams that are used to irrigate the farm fields. That's not looking out for you. When it's, when they make it take the rainy day fund that you're talking about, which could be going to these farmers to help keep them going, to give them the ability to grow low maintenance, very sustainable, but yet high cash crops like, here he goes, kids, hemp or cannabis or even bamboo, for goodness sake. Nope, can't do that. But we'll help you foreclose so Tyson can come in and take your farm. I don't think there's a farmer in the Commonwealth, that they're being honest, can actually say that their Republican representatives have done a damn thing to help them. So why am I running? Not just you, Robert. Why am I the construct of the Democratic candidate? I'm running to I want to actually represent you. Funny thing, kids, another one of my fun cliches all the time. I'm running not just to hold the office. I'm running to do the job. When you can look people in the face, Robert, even if they've been voting for the Cormans for the 40 years, can they accept that?
Do they hear you or do they listen to you?
That's a good question. I mean,
in your opinion?
In my opinion, I would say there's headway. I'm not going to say that I'm not going to win them all over. It's just not going to happen.
No, there's too many people. You can't. It's not a. There's too many folks here for that to be a to be an absolute. I should say.
Yeah.
I switched my terms. I got them backward. But in a generality, you're right. You're not going to win 100% of the vote next fall. Let's just be blunt. You're not. But I guess I know I'm kind of asking the same question over and over again. It's really not my intent, but I'm trying to drill down to this mentality because you are in a more rural area of folks that I just can't accept that somewhere deep in their brain they know it's all wrong.
Yeah.
But they just keep pulling the lever. And I know that's an old cliche too. Sometimes we put our votes in an envelope, but get my point.
It's ingrained in them. Part of it's it is, I guess, a form of indoctrination. Like, it's like, my dad was a Republican, I'm a Republican. My dad was a Democrat, I'm a Democrat. And they don't think.
But do they know that the party they've been voting for X number of years? Again, I know I'm asking the same question again. If you got one of those farmers who's voted for Republicans since probably Eisenhower, because a lot of them voted for Roosevelt, but they've been voting for Republicans since Eisenhower. If you got them alone, one-on-one, do you think they could look you in the face and go, look, I know it's not right. I know I'm getting screwed. I know it.
Yeah.
I just kind of go in the booth and I do the same damn thing, but I know I'm getting screwed.
Well, it would probably be like, the one thing I tend to get as a response is, you know what? I never thought of it that way.
I get that too.
And I'm just like, how could you not think of it that way?
It's your day-to-day life. It's your family. How could you not think of it that way?
And I'm just like, I just don't understand. And it's just, and everyone's wired different. So understandably, and it's like, if I didn't think about it that way, you know what? That means I at least got somewhere with you. Because you acknowledge that something I said triggered something else in me. And it's like, I don't necessarily need to win everybody over. But if I can get people to not work against me, in some cases, it's almost as good.
I tell candidates all the time, you're probably, generally speaking, and way more times than not, you're not gonna flip that person in that one conversation or with that one campaign slogan or that one piece of literature. But if you can leave them with something to think about, because it happens here every week. I know there's people that disagree with every single thing that comes out of my mouth. I know it. And the conversations that we have on Facebook and so on and so on, I didn't think of it that way. Or at the very minimum, I may not agree with you, but you have given me something to think about.
Yeah.
That's the opening that we have to take. But I also think that has to work both ways. These folks have to want to listen, not just hear you and give you platitudes. And there's a difference in my mind between hearing and listening. They have to be willing to listen.
Yeah. And that's something that I recently made a comment on a Republican page of the Center County Republicans, which I do sometimes because I apparently hate myself. But like, I did that, but I got this interesting response I never thought I would get. And the person said, I think you're a smart guy, which I'm like, thank you. That's nice. And I really respect your altruistic view of things, which I'm like, oh, not expecting this. I wish you were a Republican. That's what they said. And then
so are you not? Do you suddenly become more altruistic if you're a Republican?
Yeah, I
don't understand that answer, to be blunt.
I didn't know how to respond to it. I mean, it was meant as a compliment. I took that because I've been called a do something Democrat a few times too by Republicans.
I would take that as a compliment.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, I don't think, because it could come off as an insult, but I think it was meant as a compliment. And it seemed to be, because it seemed to be genuine. Like,
because you actually want to do something.
Yeah.
Again, so doing the job instead of holding the office.
Exactly. And I'm like, you know what? Okay, I'm going to take that as a compliment. I'm thinking that's what it is. And so when this person saying I was altruistic, I was like, okay, that's very nice to say. I wish you were a Republican. I was like, well, then why aren't Republicans being this way then? is my thought. But I didn't push back because this is a Republican saying this on a Republican page for the Senate County Republicans.
Right.
And I'm like, they already put their neck out there.
Right. Yes, they did.
So it's like, so this person has already done me a service by just saying that statement in a public forum where it's not favorable for them to say that.
Right.
So it's like, in my viewpoint, it's like, I may not have won them over, but they just did me some favors by doing that. They got me a lot less enemies, probably, by saying that. So, you know, is that as good as getting their vote if I have less people opposing me? You know, and then if I have somebody who's like indifferent, they're like, oh, well, they're not really being talked bad about, and they're being talked good about these other people. Maybe I should vote for them. So you get those indifferent voters to be leaning towards. You get the leaning towards voter to be for. You know, if we can get everyone, if I can get everyone one step closer to voting for me, and not all in one swoop, but if I can get somebody who outright hates me to just be annoyed with my existence, it's better, right?
They don't want to shoot you in the face. That's a start.
Yeah, and you know, and it's like, oh, you were annoyed at me, but now you're like, whatever. I don't really care one way or the other. That's still progress.
Right. You're right. Yeah, it is. It is.
So I mean, I'll take the steps forward. I don't care if they're small or big. I'll take the steps forward.
Well, and I guess that when we talk about big steps and small steps, I guess the beauty of it is that you started your campaign early. Your general election is not for another 18 months. I mean, roughly 18 months. I mean, you have the time to take those small steps.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and it's building the relationships too, and having people know me for me. I don't like events for the sake of events. I don't like doing the selfies. And not that there's anything wrong with that, because everyone's different. But I'm like, I want to show the events where people are at. And you know how many like Republicans and Democrats alike like the fact that I do that I highlight events and not like put myself in all the pictures. And I'm just like, I'm just doing it because I think it's the thing to do. I'm not doing it for accolades. But it's just like, so is there like some sort of disconnect here with the local elected officials or candidates that they're just not getting? That's, I think, is common sense. And once again, I'm not bashing anybody. I'm just saying, like, there's some sort of disconnect.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, you know, to me, just being me. It's like, if I'm not myself, that's stuff I have to keep track of that I don't want to keep track of. So I think the fact that I'm genuine is a big appeal too. I'm not saying some people aren't. Some people are, some people aren't. That's just the way life is. But I know how I am. And I've annoyed someone in my own party, multiple people in my own party. And it's just the way it is. And right. I think the fact that I don't cater to that is a big appeal too. And I think for some Republicans, seeing that on the Democratic side, it agitates them. So that might be part of the missing piece too, because they might think that these Dems are catering to something, but because they've been Republicans, they kind of turn a blind eye to their own party. That might be the part of it too.
7:05 Eastern Time, entering our third hour with Robert Zeigler, Democratic candidate for the Pennsylvania State Senate from the 34th District. Anywhere you are on Facebook, we're thrilled that you are there. That other side of information is the place to come to join the live chat at That Kennedy Talk on Twitter, thatotherkennedy@gmail.com. You can, if you've missed any of tonight's program, you can catch it all on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thatothersideofinformation. Hot101.net is the main web address. You can get the apps at the Apple App Store, the Google Play Store, the TuneIn radio app for every kind of phone. Go into the search bar and search for hot101.net. And of course, our friends and family and new partners at TCP, the Cultured Professional, the TCP Network, and their friends, family, viewers, Facebook followers, and their radio outlet, WTCP, the Roku channel, all of it, all the world that is TCP and the growing world of the Kennedy Effect. We are live with you at 7:06 Eastern Time on the 18th of July, 2021. 267-227-9189 is the phone number. Happy to take your calls. No one has taken advantage as of yet. What a shocker. 267-227-9189, 227-9189. After almost an hour of the Republican mindset and corruption and so on, Robert, I'm sure you have other significant issues that will be kind of the cornerstones of your campaign. What might they be?
Well, another issue that kind of doesn't get addressed is mental health and substance abuse. Well, and drug use in general. It's just, we need to decriminalize such things and humanize them. And by that, I mean, with mental health issues and I'm all for legalizing marijuana, by the way. Like, I think that's a no-brainer. And that could also help with farmers and different industries as well.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of that, they wouldn't need federal subsidies then because they have a different crop to grow. You tax it like similar to what you would do with cigarettes or alcohol, depending what system works best. And the range of income that would bring is anywhere from $250 million to $1 billion a year. I mean, this depends on the system that we use. Whether it's Colorado's or now New Jersey's, what they're going to be doing. And you put that money into mental health and substance abuse. And then if it happens to do a plethora of growth, which shows that it grows every year
exponentially,
almost exponentially.
Yeah, it really does. It explodes. It absolutely explodes.
It explodes. So it's like you use that money then to help with education, like a chunk of it. I mean, mental health is the cause of about 10 to 15%, depending where you're at, of police calls and EMS calls. It's insane. Not to make a joke out of that, but it's mental health issues is really an underfunded and under-resourced issue because it's basically been criminalized. And you have these warrants, the 302s, where the police go and restrain somebody who's having a mental health crisis. And that's not good. So you're sending in, you need like co-responder units similar to Cahoots or what's Colorado's got going, which is shown it drastically reduces the calls that where police involvement are at, so that 10% goes down to about 2% if they get the police involved.
The interesting thing that I think too many people seem to take as anti-police, and again, it's almost sad how deep messaging has gotten into even the common basics and common sense of what we do on a day-to-day basis. If you are really, quote unquote, I support the police, Blue Lives Matter, all that fun stuff, isn't the best way to show that to invest, to take tiny, tiny bits of those budgets, or, shocker, hang on, look outside for snow, add new money into sending the real professionals with our police to support them.
Yeah.
Our police are not mental health counselors. They're not substance abuse counselors. They're not medical professionals. If someone's having an epileptic fit and somebody thinks that they're having a mental health breakdown, they're two damn different things.
Yeah.
Isn't the real way, the truth, the real way to say Blue Lives Matter is to give them the support that they need, which means we know you're not a mental health counselor. We get it. Hell, you're not a domestic abuse counselor. Go into the home, put the cuffs on the guy who's beaten his wife, but then the counselor has to step in because you're not one of them. Isn't that really the way to say we support our police?
Yeah, you're talking about proactive versus reactive. Now the police
about common sense.
Well, it's common sense. But the argument I make is a proactive versus reactive approach, and that's the easiest way to make actual headway.
Yours sounds way more intelligent than mine, but I'm sticking with common sense.
but it is common sense, and common sense means that you tend to be proactive with actions anyway, right? So
I think so, yeah.
And in terms of investments, you make proactive moves and actions for investments over reactive ones. It saves more money overall. So let's say the police basically, depending
on
which
cash bail, it saves prison expenses, it saves police processing expenses, it labor hours. Instead of 3 hours to book someone and put them in they could be right back out in the street if that person was with a counselor.
or interdicted from jail, from prison directly to a substance abuse program.
Yeah, like some sort of inpatient services or even outpatient services where they'd be like, hey, basically, here's what the deal is. We know that you're chemically off on this part. You just need this.
It saves hundreds of millions of dollars in every county or would. And all that money could be used for other things. And it seems to me that that's the real way you support police. And make their job easier and safer.
And the term defund police is a little bit incorrect.
It's the single worst piece of political marketing forever.
And once again, Democrats with messaging.
Yep.
Now, so it's like divest, reinvest. That's what you're doing. You're taking, so like, I'll use St. College Borough as an example because there are police forces nearby. They have, they had up to 63 officers on the books. But their lowest crime rate happened when they had 54 officers on the books. That's when one of the lowest crime rates happened. And then there was also 2 riots that happened because of Penn State football. So because we love our football, but it's like they have one of those.
How do you celebrate a win other than a riot? Yeah.
Well, yeah, Philly does it too sometimes.
Oh, they do it all the time.
Yeah, but
that's a whole different planet.
It's like I get being excited, but that's not my realm.
Yeah, anyway, I never understood that bit. Yeah, never understood that bit.
But the year they had
I'm so excited about that win. I'm going to trash this business. Oh,
but yeah, you had 2 riots in that year where they had 50. I think it was 54 officers. Least amount of officers they ever had in the past 15 years, and it was one of the lowest crime rates they ever had. So the amount of officers does not affect the crime rates as much as people think, because police are reactive compared to proactive. And a lot of their calls, State College, and I'm not bashing it, it's a college town. When do they have most of their calls? Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, because it's alcohol related, because college town, and it just is what it is. So why don't we, how are the schedules for the police done? Can we do some ways to modify it? So these are when most of the calls happen. Let's modify our schedules to that. So, but for their calls, 10 to 15% mental health related or substance abuse related. So if there is a treatment with that, logically, you would need 10 to 15% less police to handle the amount of calls. Logically speaking, that's how it should work. And then it's like, okay, well, what about traffic control? Well, traffic control, you got to hire Flagger Force is the name of the one company, or you get the fire police company and just kick them some bucks from the fire police. That's a volunteer company. Just donate to them. They cover traffic control. Then you don't have police have to worry about that. What about car accidents? Well, we could do the same thing. And if you chip away some of these things, dealing with homelessness, how about we shore up homeless shelters instead of calling the police to move these guys or to transport these guys? It just, so are you going to be able to
rehab the abandoned properties, give them the home?
Yeah.
That's how Finland eliminated homelessness by, they did a very simple T chart. One side here, one side here. We have X number of empty blighted properties and we spend this much on them. We have this many homeless people and we spend that much on it. Well, if we just give them that, we've solved 2 problems. No more blighted properties and no more homeless. And that's exactly what they did.
And could you imagine how much?
Effectively no unsheltered problem in Finland. And if someone becomes unsheltered, here, we have a property for you.
Yeah. And I mean, imagine us doing something for the benefit of the people that would also raise property values for the people as well. So they get indirect benefit.
And therefore revenues.
And therefore more revenues. And it's now some people would say that's socialism. However, if you're resolving 2 problems with one for the benefit of society, isn't that what you want your tax dollars to do? To make it so you're getting more value and resolving issues?
Let me ask you about that. Because I have to expect that because it is such an easy, simple, ridiculous sort of attack, that everything, Harry Truman famously said that everything that helps the people is labeled as socialism, essentially because rich people don't want to pay for it.
I have to assume you're going to get that attack at some point in this campaign. How do you defend a word that has been so bastardized as socialism? I tend to defend it by saying sometimes I get ridiculous. I mean, literally, sometimes I get a little ridiculous about it. Fine, you don't want socialism? Here's what I want you to do. The stretch of road out in front of your house, that's now yours. I expect it to be paved, cleared of snow, the stripes to be painted, leaves collected, all the curbs maintained, the sewer system made, all of it. That's now yours. Oh, well, I can't do that. That's what the town's for. Right. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Because you pay into it and we all benefit from it.
Well, it's just
you don't get a library anymore. You don't get the airport anymore. You better have your own water treatment system and water purification system. Well, I can't build a sewer plant in my backyard. Right, you can't. That's why we have a collective one. We all pay into it. No more police for you, by the way, and no more fire, because they're socialistic inherently.
Yeah,
I mean,
especially volunteer ones, volunteer fire companies.
Especially. I mean, isn't essentially socialism really nothing more difficult in its definition and explanation than something that we all pay into, that we cannot provide for ourselves? The largest socialistic institution on the planet is the United States military.
Yep.
How do you first off, do you expect to be attacked as a socialist, and how do you defend it?
Of course. I'm a Democrat. Of course, when we call it a socialist, like they just automatically link that. They're just like, and the thing is, you're talking to a guy with a political science degree.
Right.
It's like, what is true socialism? It's like, well, actually, it's not socialism. It's maybe democratic socialism at best.
Which is what all of Western Europe is, by the way.
Which is all Western Europe. And it's like, so.
And by the way, where did Western Europe get all that?
Yeah.
Got it from us after we rebuilt their governments after the war, because we were a democratic socialist government because of the New Deal to get us out of the Republican Great Depression. Massive government spending for the common good.
Yeah. And one thing I always point out to people is like, well, do you have your Social Security card with you? You're not supposed to.
I tell people to burn it.
Yeah. And I'm just like, well, you're literally a social card carrier. Like, it's like this is literally what you have. Well, I put money into it. It's like, exactly. That is how it works. You went to public school, right? They'll be like, yeah, I went to public school. It's like, technically that's socialism. It's like, you went to, do you do this? Do you do this? Like, and you just go through a few things they don't realize. I was like, so you support the police. The police is socialism.
Yep.
To your point. And it's like, and I was like, I'm not saying that socialism, if it's done for the benefit of many and everyone's putting into it, or most everybody's putting into it, like, you're not going to get everybody. Let's say 95% of the people put in something that benefits 100%. It's a worthwhile investment in society. If you want to live in society, you have a social contract. That's the way I put it too. And it's like, so if you want to be off the grid and not deal with people, not deal with this, then you got to find one heck of a cabin off in the woods or whatever you want to build, and take care of everything yourself. It's like, by the way, you better not come to town using my roads.
You'd need solar to do it too,
and you would need solar
which is another irony. But it's what Tom Hartman refers to as the commons: the roads, the bridges, the dams, the airports, the water systems, the schools, the libraries, the town hall. What he refers to as the commons, and it is democratic socialism, because I don't want government making my TV. I don't want them making the computer that I'm speaking to you on. I don't want them making my car or my blue jeans. But the commons is a governmental duty. It's a governmental function. We all pay taxes into this pot to pay for the things that we cannot provide for ourselves, for the common good. And I border on fascinated that we don't know how to combat this ridiculous label. The label that is an awful lot more accurate on the opposite side is fascism. The merger of government and state, or the merger of corporate and state interests, the unbridled use of governmental power to further corporate aims. That's a hell of a lot more accurate as to what's happening on the right than socialism happening on the left, in my opinion. Your thoughts? Without descending into a labeling argument, but that's sadly too much of the discourse has fallen into a labeling argument.
Well, it's like, okay, you got like what, socialism versus corporate cronyism. Is that like what you could say basically? And then you got like some other people who are just like, I hate it all, just have it all burn to the ground. And then you have another group that's like, let's all hold hands and we'll all be better now. Like you have these four groups. The last two being kind of a little bit more of a smaller group and smaller groups. So it's like, I mean, it takes people willing to actually lead in both sides for the betterment of society, you know. And it's just like, we don't, on the Democrats leaning side or the left side, you have Bernie Sanders, right? That's the guy who does that. In all honesty, he's the guy who's like, we need to do this, this, this. And I'm going to keep yelling like an angry grandpa. And I mean that with respect and love that he is. But who's like the leader for the good causes on the right side for the benefit of the people that just happens to be a different view? Is there one? And it's like, I don't know.
No,
I don't know. I mean, maybe Liz Cheney, you know, but now she's not a leader anymore. She's not in a leadership role.
No.
Mitt Romney, maybe, kind of.
No, and the ironic thing about Liz Cheney is she voted with Trump 96% of the time.
Yeah.
But because she had, again, the intellectual honesty to stand up and say, you lost. Wasn't stolen.
Yeah.
You're drifting in, and she's used the word herself too. You're drifting into authoritarianism here. It's not what we were built on. It's not what the country's built on. But sure, she was happy to vote for the tax cuts. She's not a liberal in any respect of the imagination, except for the fact that we're drifting out of democracy here.
Yeah.
And the courage and the honesty with which to say it. What's happened to her, and actually continues, by the way, to happen to her, if that doesn't tell you how far Republicans have drifted from any sense of reality, I don't know what other example there is, except possibly for the global climate crisis. The only major, again, I've said that they're not a political party anymore, but the only recognized major political party on Earth as a matter of its platform that denies global climate change and the global climate crisis is the Republicans of the United States. Even the conservatives in the UK don't deny it. The authoritarian government in Hungary doesn't deny it.
Well, I mean, comparatively to our global peers, the whole country of the United States is more conservative in general. I mean, really, Bernie Sanders is a moderate in terms of the global scale.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, which is really odd considering the country.
And he's also a New Deal Democrat. It's not everything that Bernie and AOC, by the way, advocates. There's nothing new in there. There's no new policy in there. It's tried, true, proven successes with a history of performance of policies that we know have worked. When I hear folks on the right freak out about the Green New Deal, it's the New Deal. It simply has a focus of re-engineering our power grid and, dare we say, the economy and how we live our lives. Solar panels on roofs, wind turbines, tidal force turbines, weather stripping, energy efficiency, electric cars, batteries, charging stations. It uses the global climate crisis for as a portal, dare I say, maybe that's not even the right word, maybe a justification. I'm not sure that's the right word either, to be fair, but we're using this absolute crisis that is quite literally talking about the extinction of the human race to reinstitute the New Deal. I mean, am I missing anything? When we talk about progressivism, and I don't use the term progressivism that much anymore, it's the New Deal. We did this before. It works. That's why we want to do it again, because it worked.
And that's like one thing that I refer to myself as a practical progressive. And the reason I say that is because it disarms a lot of the negative connotation with people. And the thing is, it's like, okay, if we have an idea that was thought of to be impossible, what's a practical way to get it to happen? And I talked about broadband briefly earlier, but it was like, for me out here, I reached out to companies and I talked to them, and I basically harassed them. I harassed them to no end. And I was like, just come out here, take a look at what's here, and tell me what you can do and what you can't do and what it will cost and what it won't cost. And eventually we got a company out here and said, well, actually, we're upgrading all of our infrastructure. And so if you can get us these franchise agreements with these 4 municipalities in a short span, we'll just roll it into what we're expanding on anyway, and we can get you out, get service out to where you guys are. So trying to get 4 municipalities to cooperate in a short span of time is a little bit hard to do. But talking to them, 2-month span, we all have franchise agreements because legally you have to have it up for 30 days in Pennsylvania, blah, 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 legal stuff. But it takes basically 2 months, all the franchise agreements, go back to the company. They're like, great, we'll set up plans out there. And it just worked. They figured we can make it work because your guys are on board. The legalities are safe, save time. We'll invest our own money to bring this out here because you guys don't have that much out there to begin with. And we know that we can get the revenue back eventually. And they just rolled it into the project they already had. So a little bit was timing. A little bit was like me harassing them relentlessly for like 3 months. and like, I'm like, hey, by the way, I'm talking to Comcast, or hey, by the way, I'm talking to Verizon. Hey, I'm talking to these guys too. To let them know one of you is going to stick. It's just a matter of who. And it came out, and they're like, we can do it. This is what we need. And it's like, oh, by the way, we're going to use our own money because we think it's worthwhile. Great. It just, why can't everyone just do that? Just find ways to make things work. And then with them coming out here,
a good chunk of the New Deal, as you are well aware, the Tennessee Valley Authority continues to operate to this day.
Yes.
And even Republicans support it. It employs thousands of people. It continues to bring power to an entire state. But a good emphasis of the New Deal was, Roosevelt did approach the private companies. We want you to run telephone wires out to this area. We need to expand power. And they said, no, it's not profitable. And he essentially said, well, then screw you. I'll pay for it myself and I'll do it directly. I think the fact that you were able to get those companies to work with you was nothing short of a miracle. Because I think they could have very well said, no, we're not going to help you. And at the end of the day, your borough wouldn't have been able to afford to do it on their own. And you would have been left in limbo. But the fact that you got them to help, I guess you'd say help. Yeah, really. Although it's their jobs. I mean, they're making revenue on it now. But for you to get them to work with you, I'm trying to say, not well, is nothing short of amazing, in my humble opinion.
Well,
but it also shows the best of how government and companies and the private sector can work together.
Oh, public and private partnerships are great. That's why our solar array is. They lease the land, and for that lease, they give us a discount rate on the electricity. So we save money. They're still making a little bit of money. I mean, it's a win-win. Like, it can be done. They do different areas. They do like it's like wireless internet service provider. So they'll do that through antenna waves. Like broadband goes up to like a tower, beams out, line of sight, broadband. So private company out here, Centerwest is the name of the company. They did a partnership with the county using their 911 towers. They lease the space, so the county's making money. Service gets provided to. We were one of the people they provided service to. So Atlantic Broadband is the company that I got out here. Oops, sorry guys, I'm just trying to get people more service. But it pushed them to do upgrade services and do more and expand more rapidly. And it was good. It made it more competitive. It was a win-win overall. Like public-private partnerships, the state has tons of assets. Municipalities have tons of assets that they just sit on, and you don't get tax revenue on them. You don't make any money on them. They don't generate electricity, or they don't generate. They just sit there. So, like at the state level, one thing that'd be really awesome to do is like, okay, what areas of grounds like, let's say selective timbering, for example. And I'm just picking something, but it's like some areas selective timbering is very good for the environment there.
It helps prevent fires. It's actually good for the the growth of other trees. It's good.
Exactly.
Right.
So for healthier forests,
you can actually. This is one of those things that might seem counterintuitive, but there are places and methods and ways at which you can not. Well, it's like Robert said, it's selective. It's not stripping a forest, not clearing a forest, but a group of. It's a very poor example. I hope you'll forgive me, Robert, but a group of 8 trees, a little too clustered together, we'll take 3 of those out. The other 5 will be better for it. Exactly. And by the way, we get some wood.
Well, it's just like take like a good example to think of it is like Ford when they tried to do a rubber plant down in Brazil and they planted all the trees too close to each other and they did nothing. It's a similar premise in the
choked each other out. Right.
Yeah, they choked each other out.
The forest will choke itself out.
Yeah. Actually, and in some areas, because there's so much growth, it's actually better to be clear cut, believe it or not. Like some people, it sounds crazy because you're thinking, oh, we're destroying this forest. It's like in some selective few areas, that is the best course of action. And so it's like, well, if that's the best course of action there, why couldn't we lease that land out to a solar developer and generate electricity for the Commonwealth's government buildings? That'd be a possibility if we had better solar laws in our state. Why can't we spend any savings that we have and retrofit and modify all of our government buildings so that way they have solar, so they offset some of the electrical costs? And oh, by the way, how about we upgrade all of our technology that we have in these buildings that are archaic, hello unemployment system that we had, and fix everything to be as streamlined as possible.
If you want to call it a system, what we were left with by Republicans and Governor Corbett, if you want to call it a system, it was a non-system.
And the weird thing
it was built not to work.
Well, and on top of that, they kept cutting funding to it to begin with. So, like, you're not even supporting the system that you're calling out Governor Wolf for, when in actuality, the legislature is what passes the budget. That's a whole different issue.
Right.
But it's like we have all these.
So we like to blame Governor Wolf for things that Republicans did.
He can't even do it. He doesn't create the laws. He just signs it.
Exactly.
So, civics class is something that's really needed in schools. But
at 7:36 Eastern Time, hot101.net, Apple Store, Google Play Store, TuneIn Radio app, and of course the main website. Anywhere you are on Facebook, That Other Side of Information, That Other Side of Information, That Other Kennedy at gmail.com, at That Kennedy Talk on Twitter, youtube.com/That Other Side of Information for the recorded program, and the phone line remains open. Geez, don't all call at once, folks. Don't all flood the phone line at once. Don't pull a muscle dialing that phone that you all have in front of you. 227-267. No, let me try that again. 267-227. It would help if I gave you the right number. I can't complain that you're not calling if I don't put the right number there. 267-227-9189. 267-227-9189. 267-227-9189. Entering, probably be with you till about 8 or 8:15-ish.
this evening. Robert, give me something else that we need to hit on that is going to be a plank. We talked corruption. We talked, sensible, sensible economic growth and environmental policy and power policies and private-public partnership. Tell me something else that is a foundation of what you plan to bring to folks to make your argument.
Well, another thing I think that is kind of key is like just criminal justice reform in general. You're looking at, and that kind of entails everything again. Like everything's interconnected in some form or fashion.
You're absolutely right. I don't think enough people know that, by the way, Robert. I'm at the risk of us getting off into another tangent, but
yeah.
I don't think people truly understand. And again, not out of a lack of intelligence, but a lack of education, perhaps.
Yeah.
These things really are connected to each other. Taxes pay for this, which if we save that money, we can use for that. And a lack of education, if we don't invest in education, it leads to more money being spent on police and prisons and interdiction programs and so on, which leads, and those folks are in those interdiction programs because of drug use, because they are hopeless, because maybe they didn't get a great education and their house is falling down and they can't afford the utility bills when we could be providing cheaper, cleaner energy. And it is all so connected. I'm not sure folks realize just how connected it is.
Well, it's so like the prison system, for example. In some prisons, up to 2/3 of the prisoners have mental health issues or substance abuse problems. So obviously there's a criminalization issue there instead of a public health problem. If it's treated like a public health issue, then they're not in the prisons. Which, if they're not in the prisons, oh, by the way, we don't need so many prisons. And on top of that, you have prison gerrymandering, which means that usually in rural areas, they get more people. People are in the prisons, so therefore they're used to count for the population that's being represented, even though their home may be Philadelphia or Pittsburgh or Harrisburg or some other area. In actuality, those people should be counted in the home district that they were at or the home area that they were at. So that way the tax dollars go back to support their neighborhood that they're coming back home to when they get out in an ideal situation. So, I mean, you have some prisons that are pretty big. I mean, you're like, I think the state prison that's out near here holds about 1,500 people, I think. That's a chunk of people. That's a good chunk of people. And then you have a county prison, which holds about, I think it holds about 250, 300. So you're talking about the prison.
How hard is it to make a criminal justice case when in an area stripped of so much of its economy depends on that prison for incomes and jobs? When coal and oil leave Pennsylvania, we have it here in Northampton County. When slate leaves Pennsylvania and you're left with nothing, I mean, literally nothing. We had nothing left to fall back on. The local businesses depended on the people who worked in the mines or pumped the oil. The local businesses in the slate belt depended on the people that mined and formed the slate for slate roofs, which are actually coming back. By the way, it's kind of interesting. Slate roofs are actually kind of fashionable to have again. They're not cheap, but they do last for a century, and they've become fashionable again. And people are actually ordering slate again, but that's a different topic. But when the big remaining employer is a prison, is it more difficult to make the case for why these types of criminal justice reform points and solutions make sense? Are people afraid they're going to lose the one thing they have left?
Well, once again, it's kind of a loaded question. I mean, in terms of getting employment to prisons, in some prisons, it's pretty hard to get people employed there. It's hard to recruit people just because the conditions to work in a prison, not all of them. Once again, I don't want to become global, but for some, it's hard for them to attract talent to come in there. So for some of these issues, it just for sheer attrition, it might just solve itself. And I hate to say that that's an idealistic view, but it's also the truth. It's just like when I was saying about like using technology and streamlining things in state government. If we have better technology and we have all these people that are retiring, and we just don't rehire for the positions. We're through attrition. The technology helps fill in that gap, and then that in turn helps the pension program make it more feasible long term. But with the prisons,
which the state pension system is consistently underfunded. It has been borrowed from but never replenished.
It's it's interesting, but legislators won't ever take out their own retirement. So as long as you're in that system, that part of the system, you're going to be
good. Other state pension systems have been defunded. Certainly not the legislators themselves, but others have been borrowed from and used as cash cows.
But to answer your question, it's like some places are going to rely on those jobs, but one of the savings that was accrued was used in order to help do economic development in those areas, to help offset that. I mean, some of these prisons have their own farms. They have their own furniture making capabilities. They have what Pennsylvania has done at a state level with prisons is disturbing and impressive. Because Rockview prisons were nearby, and they have their own farm facility which covers a lot of their costs. You have a lot of prisoners that are getting developed skills through farming. You have a lot that are doing furniture building and making, and pretty good stuff too, by the way. Like the quality's pretty good, and they're getting carpentry skills, and they're getting these other skills. So, in some ways, it's good. In other ways, it's exploitive.
The 37 cents an hour is a tad exploitive, is it not?
It is. It's exploitive. And then, but I think if I remember correctly, they also get time taken off their sentence for doing the work.
But we could also pay them even $7.25 an hour and actually send them out of prison.
Yes.
If you combine it with the time off of the sentence that they're working off, we could send them out with a little cash in pocket to get a head start.
Yeah, and that resolves another
restarted, issue, as it were. Yeah, to get restarted.
And that resolves another issue. It's like, all right. So in an ideal world, let's say we legalize marijuana, right? We take out all the non-violent offenders in the entire state that are there for state reasons. Boom, out of the system. The savings from that system then makes it so we can pay these guys actual real wages, right? And then on top, so then they're making real wages.
Learning a skill, making real wages, earning themselves, again, a little bit of a pocket full of cash that they can take with them when they are released and start. And hopefully start over.
Yeah, and if we have proactive systems because of the legalization of marijuana that helps with mental health services and substance abuse issues, when people are getting out, they have more structures in place to not go back in. Because repeat offenders is a large percentage of that.
Mm-hmm.
And you keep cycling those savings because the prisons will eventually thin out with these other systems being in place. It won't happen overnight, but long term it could happen. There's definitely a path there. You use those savings, you help affect economic growth in the areas that rely on the jobs of the prisons.
This might touch, without intending to do it, this might almost get us back to a corruption and accountability discussion. It's actually really not my intent, but as I'm formulating the question in my head, I can see where it might drag us backward in the conversation. I hope that's not how you'll take it. Mr. Corman did vote for the transportation bill in 2013, which dramatically raised the gas tax. And that all of that money was supposed to be used for roads and infrastructure. Billions of it was taken and given to the state police. Now, I think we all happen to support our state police. We all think they should be paid a fair wage, if not a really, really good wage. That money was eventually returned. But the whole point of having the highest gas tax in the entire country, but yet still having the overall condition of our roads. Now, I drive a lot for my job. I see some gorgeous stretches of roads. I think most Pennsylvanians don't even know they exist. There's long stretches of the northeast extension, 84, 81, 180, which is practically brand spanking new because I'm not sure anybody uses it. 380. And then you have other roads, again, right here in the Lehigh Valley. 22 is a sad old road. If it was a human being, it'd be an old man on crutches or in a wheelchair. 33, for all of its for the major trucking corridor that it has become is a flat out disaster. It's closer to a dirt road than it is a paved road. What do you, is this one of those transparency type issues that, no, you raised this ridiculously high gas tax for this purpose, and damn it, that's where the money should go, and that's the end of it. Is this a good government problem?
Well, yeah. It's a question, yeah.
It's a good government problem.
So like,
when you tell people that you're going to raise taxes, and by the way, polls will show you that the majority of people, sometimes as high as 2/3, oh wait, I got to pay more for gas, but I'm going to get better roads for it. I'll go for it. I'll take it.
Well, yeah.
But then you better damn well use the money for that purpose.
When we passed a tax a while ago to do a local services tax, and we're like, all this money is earmarked for the local EMS, which is struggling to survive. And similar measures were passed because we were like one of the few municipalities that didn't have this tax. People that worked in the borough paid $1 a week to ensure that their response time is 15 minutes instead of 45. I know that I'm okay with that, like personally. I mean, like, it's like, $1 a week's not going to break my bank, and I think I'm okay with it.
I think most people are. I think even Republicans are, though. You're telling me the EMS is going to be at my door in 15 minutes or less for $1? I'm in. Good.
Yeah,
take
exactly. It. Well, it's like the whole bill with I think it was HB 225 or 255. It was trying to lump in all the different little pots to be in the general fund. Yeah, like the recycling fee fund and all that, those different things that were just being, and it's like, I can tell you I do coffee and conversations every once in a while. So that way, I know what people are thinking. And I basically, there's these guys who drink coffee at a local cafe. I just crash their conversation. That's what really happens. There's sometimes a few other people that just happen to tag along. But like, it was one of those things where like, I was like, they asked me about that because they heard about it. And they're like, we don't trust our legislators to do what's for specific funds the right way. And that's not a bash on any particular party. That's just legislators, period.
Right.
And it's just, if there's a specific purpose, people are more willing to accept that. Now, if it's not used the way it's supposed to be, that's when people have a problem. Now, Eugene De Pascal, he was the Auditor General that pointed that out about the state police. You know what they did to his budget next year?
Cut it.
They cut it by $6 million because he was doing his job. And it's one of those things where it's just like, well, that's kind of interesting. The majority party cut a Democrat job for doing his job the way it's supposed to.
Which is exactly how you knew he was doing his job, by the way.
Yeah.
It certainly wouldn't have been that retributive. I think I just made a word. If he had not hit a nerve, and he hit.
Yeah. And then that money goes back to them. Now, the argument you could say is that this gas tax, it helps fund for safety. And then you make the argument that the state police are for safety. But it's like, but the state police aren't preventing issues. They're responding to issues.
Again, the reactive and the proactive that you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, okay, yes, they may respond to be first responders for an accident. Yeah, that's safety. But is it millions upon millions of dollars worth or billions? And then you kind of get a gray area. But to your point, this money was sold, and I will say sold, as a package for bridges and roads. So people were like, yeah, okay, I'm all right with that.
Do you have municipalities in the 34th? I would assume that you do, that use the state police as their local police because they are so small? And should they be paying for that the way Governor Wolf has been pushing for quite a few years now?
So that's actually my whole region that I live in.
No one has a police force up there?
Yeah, so it's like we don't have a regional police force.
Okay.
We have the state police. So the response time out here, it varies. Because, I mean, they do go through patrol and go around.
Right.
But your response time could be as much as 40 minutes, depending where you live. Now, I will say, luckily, most people here do have their own guns. so you run that risk of like, do I want to mess with that guy?
Right.
I mean, it's like for me, I have cameras and other stuff too. Like it's not, because I know where I'm at. But, having municipalities pay for a regional police force, some municipalities don't really have crime at all. because most people have their own guns. And I'm not making a case for gun control or anything one way or the other. I'm just saying it is a deterrent.
It's the reality of the area.
It's a legitimate deterrent.
Right.
And with the police, if we have something like a big event, we let them know, give them a heads up. They come out, chill out for a couple of hours for the event, then they leave. So that way they're there to respond to the scene immediately. So if there's something major going on, we can let them know. And that helps as long as we give them the heads up. But it's just, the police, to regionalize them, it's not practical for a lot of smaller municipalities. We're one of the smallest municipalities in Center County with Milheim Borough. For us to chip in a certain amount of money, especially if it's just a flat fee, impossible. Per capita might be more reasonable, but you're talking, there's like 3 municipalities, I think, townships and boroughs that have a population less than we do. So you're telling me this one county that's got like 90,000% or 90% forests, that's going to be like, yeah, okay, we want police up here? Like, no, they're not going to need that.
Should Milheim be paying the fees that the governor's been pushing for? Or do you find that as equally, you may not be able to all gather together for a county police department, and that happens, by the way. The Slate Belt has a regional police. Guys, you're picking on the Slate Belt tonight, but I mean, they do. In New York State, Long Island, they have Nassau County Police Department. They have Suffolk County Police Department, the 2 counties as you go east out onto the island. If you cannot do the logistics for a Snyder County Police Department, again, the governor's been pushing for municipalities like yours to pay for these police. Should you have to? Do you believe in it? Do you think it's fair? Is it unfair? Or would it be fair if the fee was based on the right kind of sets of circumstances?
If there's a fee, I think it would need to be one supported by the state. Like, if the state needs to put some money into it. Because if they're forcing that down our throats, and I hate to say that in a way, but that's what they do sometimes. Like, anything that's got preemption to it is ridiculous to me. But if they're doing
arguably, they're footing 100% of the bill now.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is that they were trying to be like, hey, you need to share some of this cost. They still got to provide a good cost.
Right.
And it needs to be by population. It can't be done by like just across the board municipality, this amount of money. Or that if you don't, it just doesn't make sense. So if it's thought out well, it might be able to work. But Pennsylvania has a weird situation where they have elected law officials in every municipality called a constable. And this elected official should get training paid for so they can serve papers and have firearms training. And on top of that, that type of person is law enforcement, where they can take care of felonies, anyone who disturbs the peace, the major things. They can handle that. They are legally allowed to in the Constitution. And they serve the governor. And it's actually a statewide position. So their jurisdiction is the whole state. Every municipality has one, even Milheim. Milheim has one that's running for office now. So it's an elected position that's law enforcement. So do you really need police if you have a legally constitutional position that is elected that can fulfill that role to some extent? That would be my question. And it's like, oh, by the way, they can be trained to handle mental health as well. If you got a mental health specialist that happen to be trained in guns, that's another option too. I'm just throwing that out there. I'm not
right.
It's not really done in Pennsylvania, but that's something to think about.
As we enter the last 15-ish minutes or so, there's one, rather than asking you for another issue, there's one issue I really want to make sure that we get to, especially in an area like yours. Why is it so difficult? I would assume that you're going to be making this argument. You did the solar array, you believe in such things. Why is the environmental argument sometimes so difficult to make to farmers and rural folk when they depend on their environment so deeply?
I don't, it's an education piece for a lot of them. I mean, you talk to a farmer, a more modern farmer now, and even, the Amish actually do a lot of solar out here. They do a lot of solar. And they're off grid. So, they're kind of like their own entity legitimately. But other farmers, like, they're much more open and aware of things. Actually, there's one farmer nearby who's actually an engineer. Like, he's legit an engineer. He has an engineering degree, applies it to his farming. And there's a lot of symbiotic relationships that can be done between the environment and solar, and and farming and solar and all that. And it's like a sheep farmer. If you're a sheep farmer, you can do a solar field. You can do that. I mean, sheep are very docile. If you do cattle, you can do what they call cow scratchers. And these things are built. I mean, they're overbuilt, as they say out here, but they're overbuilt, and they're made to hold. Basically, cows go up, scratch against them, then graze underneath them. They don't mess with the wires. Can't do it with goats though. That feels miserable. It doesn't work. But
Feels for the goats too. I would think.
You would think so. They're pretty stubborn, but but then now they're developing technology where the solar will pass through certain ultraviolet ray colors, and that allows certain things like, let's say, basil, soy, like certain types of crops to grow still. So there's a symbiotic relationship you can have with farming and solar. And then on top of that, some of these places have ideal wind conditions too, in some spots of Pennsylvania.
Oh, absolutely. When I travel up the Northeast Extension from the Wilkes-Barre area, Mahoning Valley, up into Scranton, and you can see the wind turbines up on top of the mountain range, and they are constantly in motion. I don't find them, and it's interesting because you will see the campaign style signs in folks' yard that no more wind on mountaintop, no more turbines. And I happen to find, maybe I'm strange, maybe this is a geeky thing, I happen to find them fascinating. I think they're beautiful in their own way. And the mountaintop has not been cleared of trees. These things are well, you would know better than me. They look as if, I should say, even if a fully developed, evergreen tree is 30 feet, these are well above that.
Oh, yeah.
Well above that. We haven't, unlike strip mining, where you literally destroy the top of a mountain or blow it to bits and cart it away in dump trucks to where there's no mountain left anymore. These are fully forested mountains with wind turbines sticking off the top of them. They forgive the oversimplistic analogy, but they literally look like birthday candles in a cake. I didn't disturb the rest of the cake. I just stuck a candle in it. And the way folks seem to be, we've created these arguments, these polarizing arguments against common sense that I just find fascinating. Well, I'm not taking a vaccination because that's what Democrats do. Okay, well, get sick and die then.
Yeah. Well,
this is not we're in the middle of a freaking pandemic. If you want to get sick and die, okay. But that's really quite literally the choice. But damn it, I want the economy open. Well, then get a vaccine. Well, I don't want a vaccine. It's my right not to get one. Well, then go the hell home and shut up. Do you understand that the two things don't go together? But when I see the signs of no more wind on mountaintop, I'm like, why? Why? They're actually quite majestic. They're actually quite beautiful to look at in their own way. It's not a tree. It's not a, I get that. It's not a hawk soaring through the air. I get that. It's not a natural beauty. It's the same way that Manhattan is beautiful.
Yeah.
It's all man-made and concrete and glass, but it's beautiful in its own way. These wind turbines are beautiful in their own way. Every time I drive up there, I find myself kind of staring at them.
Yeah.
Why would you not want more of them?
Winterize them too.
And why would you not want more? Well, correct. Yes, I know. You want to talk about the merger of corporate and state interest, and so why would we not want more of them? It would seem to me that farmers, folks who literally make a living off of the environment being healthy, whether it's crop rotation, the ability to grow hemp or cannabis or bamboo or any of kale, which is, God knows, everybody's eating kale. It seems to me that these things, they would be the natural constituency to come in and say, but if we do these things, then then you don't need to sell the rights to your land to run a pipeline under it just so you can keep your land. At the same time, it's being destroyed and poisoned.
Yeah. Yeah.
These are obvious common sense things. And I'm not trying to hijack an issue from you. I know the environment must be one of your issues, but it seems to me that it's one of those, as we've kind of had this narrative through our interview tonight of why can't we make these cases in rural areas? It would seem to me that a green economy would be a natural for folks in rural areas.
Well, and a lot of it's the misinformation about like just solar in general. It's not, we can say green energy is the only way, but like for right now, for all intents and purposes, right now, it is the current substitute for the decline of the fossil fuel industry, and like carbon fuels are still around, and we still got probably another 50, 100 years of them. Let's just call it what it is. However, we need to be building up these things in place now to replace that and also help our environment. That's what we need to do. And some people were like, oh, well, what about recycling solar panels and blah, blah, blah. I was like, we've had stuff that we shot up into space in the 70s that was still beaming signals to us. And that's when the technology was garbage. Like, it was just garbage. I was like, oh, by the way,
the Voyager probes are still operating on and less than 1% of the solar power that they were getting when they were in the solar system. They have now left the solar system, but continue to operate and still send us messages. How many rovers on Mars that we thought were going to last 3 months, 6 if we were lucky? Some of those rovers have been there for a decade, and they continue to operate. And when dust covers the solar panels and the batteries run to a certain extent, the computer shuts down the rover until the winds blow off the panels again. The batteries recharge, it turns itself back on. What an amazing piece of a human technology. I literally had to have a Facebook discussion with somebody, an argument, and the former senator, and it pains me to even say that, Rick Santorum is great for running around saying, oh yeah, well, what happens when the wind stops or it rains? It's called a battery, you stupid fool. It's called a battery.
I remember someone was asking me what happens if the sun went out. I know they didn't mean like literally
went out,
but I knew they didn't mean literally the sun going out. But I'm just like, if the sun goes out, we have way bigger issues than whether or not these solar panels work. And then it's like, and they're like, well, I meant if it's cloudy all the time. I was like, it's on UV rays.
It's called a battery.
Yeah.
And even then, panels continue to draw in energy. They simply draw in different wavelengths.
Yeah, even on a cloudy day.
Science, folks. It's amazing science. It's a wonderful thing.
Well, it's like, why do you get sunburned on a cloudy day? It's the same principle. It's UV rays. So it's like you're getting about 70% of what you should on a cloudy day. Unless it's like really thick.
Germany is not exactly the most southern latitudes.
No.
It's actually even with Canada for most of it.
Yeah.
Newfoundland, Nova Scotia specifically. They're generating more solar power than they know what to do with.
Yep.
They instituted a governmental program to incentivize people to put solar panels on their house, at the same time mandating that all government buildings will be solarized and all new construction must have solar, period.
Yeah.
And they began to generate more energy than they knew what to do with. They couldn't store it all. And they're not exactly Florida.
Yeah.
They're not even Pennsylvania. So what did they do? What did they do? How are they going to get rid of all of this excess energy? They sold some of it.
They sold some of it to neighboring countries, I remember.
Correct.
Yeah.
They also then put in a second incentive program to encourage people to buy electric cars because the cars became a storage device. Why on earth? Maybe this is a very grand 10,000 foot kind of question. When did we become the country of can't? It seems to me if Germany can do these things, we can do these things. We're the country that put a man on the moon.
And that's a good question, Jeff. Like, and one thing that like always bothers me is that people were like, you can't do that. It's like the whole trying to get broadband out here. I was like, well, I'm going to try anyway, because one, I'm stubborn, so you don't know me well enough. Secondly, it's like, how do you know if you don't try? And it's
Isn't
like,
the answer sometimes, Robert, as simple as Robert stands up and says, I'm going to get broadband out here. Well, you already do not have broadband out there. Let's say you failed. You don't have broadband. Well, we didn't have it to start with.
Yeah.
So
I've already met your expectations.
In the effort? Right. What if we lost in the effort here? But if I'm successful, we will get it.
Yeah.
But if I fail, we've lost nothing because we didn't have it anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like right now we have I'm looking at trying to get mental health services out here. We have a medical facility that's debt free, by the way, but they have this one floor. It's just not rented. And mental health is a major issue in Pennsylvania. There's not enough service. And all of it's dealing with malpractice laws and like a whole bunch of other stuff. A bunch of stuff that would take a lot of time to fix, even and when I get elected.
Right.
But if there's a facility here, the county's getting possibly extra funds, and then you have ARP funds that can be used for mental health and substance abuse. And all these municipalities nearby have this money. Why couldn't we push to get the talent out here for a medical facility? Like, oh, by the way, it's near the school. So the school, instead of having its own mental health services inside of it, can funnel money and have less liability to these people that are specialists. And it's like, why can't we do this?
Right.
And I'm being told it's just not practical, or it's not feasible. I'm like, you're talking to the guy who just got broadband out here. You're talking to the guy who like got solar in the middle.
And I was going to say, yeah, and a solar array.
It's like,
let's skip the solar array. The broadband's a big freaking deal, but let's not skip the solar array. That's a big thing.
We have paid parental leave in our borough. We're the only municipality in Center County that gives paid parental leave for our full-time employees. Granted, it's only 2 weeks, but no one else is doing it. You know, like we pay our employees minimum wage of $15. Sorry, cost of living wage, $15. Except for the one guy who is collecting Social Security. He doesn't want to mess that up. So he only works a few hours. And that's fine. That's his choice. He told us specifically. But it's like you're saying these things are impossible, yet here we are doing it. It's like, why are you saying mental health services is impossible to get out here? I'm not saying the borough needs to do it. We get the county to do it. We just support the county. Right. They're the specialists, right? Like,
exactly.
It's just a matter of finding a way. And that's why I always say I'm a practical progressive, because I'm trying to find a way that makes it work. I'm not just launching ideas out there with like no reluctant plan at all. It's just like, let's get ways to make it work that are achievable. Or let's build those building blocks 1 year at a time to get to that point. We have an opportunity with this American Rescue Plan money. It's like, we weren't expecting this money. Why not put it to service that we don't have, that we just took a survey of, that many of our citizens want? Why not? What's the harm in doing it?
Exactly.
So, I mean, yeah, all this whole thing of can't annoys the crap out of me, Jeff. Like, it's just like, you're telling the guy who believes that he can do anything if he puts his mind to it, other than literally flying and a few other things I know are physically not possible. But it's like, just why? We, as a country, we're based on told we can't do something. We're like, yeah, well, let me see how that works. And then we had a revolutionary war about it.
Right.
You know?
But it really is. It sounds like that macho sort of Murka type thing, but we are built on that. You can't do that. Watch us.
Yeah.
Watch us do it.
We are arguably a country built on spite.
You can't get out from under the British Empire. Watch us. You can't keep the country together. It's split. Watch us.
Yeah.
You can't win a world war. Watch us. You can't win another one. Watch us. You can't split the atom. Watch us. You can't put a man on the moon in 9 years. Watch us.
Yeah.
You can't cut poverty in half. Watch us. You can't put solar panels on the White House roof. Watch us. And then watch another idiot take them off. It is 8:11. We want to wrap up here because, to be quite selfish, I need to get into another meeting. But what I wanted to do, Robert, is something that I do traditionally with every guest. And that is, for however long it takes, no time restriction, I want you, please, to just take the floor. Please tell everyone how they can get a hold of you, how they can donate to you, how they can follow you, where they might be able to see you and talk to you. And on top of that, then, and George will try to feverishly scribble everything and we'll make sure that it gets posted. Could you please then, after all of the contact information, if there are any issues that we did not get to, or that you don't feel we were able to explore completely, or anything that you absolutely just wanted to say that we didn't get to, I absolutely will do my best to shut up for 2 seconds and give you the floor.
Oh, I mean, Jeff, it was a good conversation. So I think in covering the issues, I think we worst case touched, got our tentacles in a little bit of everything. To be honest with you, so I think we're good in that regard. So good job. Don't worry, George. You don't need to write much down.
No, I want him to feverishly write down the contact info so we can post it.
Yeah.
Website,
so my website, ZeiglerForPA.com. That's pretty bare bones. I have somebody working on that. But Zeigler for PA is also for Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And you will see that I troll my opponent some. I'm not going to deny that because he sometimes posts false information. So I like to call him out on it because that's what my job is.
Yeah, it is. It is. As the opposition, that's exactly what your job is.
Yeah.
Let's just be blunt. Yeah, that's exactly what the job is.
That's what it is. So if there's any events or anything, you're welcome to just follow me on Facebook and then message me over there, or same with Twitter. I do all my own social media. That's probably the fastest way because I get the dings on my phone. Just to be honest. You can email info@zeiglerforpa.com if you want to do the email, but to be honest, the messenger on Facebook or Twitter is going to be the best way to do it. Like I
can attest to, you do answer that very quick. That's how we've been communicating predominantly. You do answer it quite quickly.
Yeah, if I'm not in meetings, I will respond probably like 5 minutes.
Right. Yeah. It's only a few minutes. Yeah. Seriously.
Yeah. So I hate myself, Jeff. It's fine. But in all
that's one way to put it, I guess.
But in all seriousness, elected officials should be responsive to their constituents or to the people they're working with, or the people that they're. Yeah, I mean, I'm on your show, right? You're doing me a favor in a way, right? Like, I mean, you're not really. It's your show, but in my mind,
it's my job. That's what I'm here for.
You're doing your job, and I want to help you do your job well. So that relies on me responding quickly and promptly, and
accurately,
as accurate as I can. And so just check out my social media. If you don't figure out what I'm about by that, I don't know what to tell you really, because I'm pretty direct. I'm pretty straightforward. I have an event coming up on August 6th. It's going to be in State College. It'll be my official campaign launch. It'll be 6 p.m. Music will be with the Corner Brothers and then Miss Melanie. Miss Melanie is my wife. She's a great singer if you haven't heard her. And that's in Center County State College. It'll be Cafe 210 West. The ticket price is $20 to go because you're getting music and getting some finger food or veggie plate. I don't know what we're getting. There's some sort of food. I don't know. Not my job. Someone else is figuring that out.
Yeah, please. But, you send that to me if you get.
I can send that to you. Yeah.
When you get time.
Yeah, probably 5 minutes after this.
State College is a pretty good hike from here, but we'll see if we do that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, and it'll be music. I'll talk for a little bit. Have people get to know me. I'm all about the conversations with people because how do I know how to best represent with the people without talking to them? Not just for them, but with them. And that's how good governance should be. And I'm not saying I'm perfect at it, but I think I do okay considering what I've done so far. Just you can find me in the news too, usually for something that I'm getting involved in. Good stuff.
Good trouble.
Good trouble.
Good trouble.
Just follow me on social media. That's the best way, honestly. But info@zeiglerforpa.com works as well. But social media sponsors are like that. I think that's good, Jeff. Anything else?
I don't think so. I mean, and we covered a lot. I mean, I told you it was just going to be a conversation, and I told you it wasn't going to feel as long as you were here. You've been here for about 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
Did it feel like it?
For my back, yes. The rest of me, no.
Yeah. Well, I you know what? I got back issues too. I can say from that point of view, yeah, it wears on the body a little bit sitting in a chair for 3 hours, but
No, it was good.
Hopefully the conversation didn't feel like that.
No,
but
it was
something
great.
I definitely want to make sure that I tell you again, all of my listeners and viewers will know that I do this every single week. So let me say it to you as well. We very much, I'm very fortunate that a lot of the guests I've had on the program are and have been friends already. We always are thrilled to have, what I guess you could call a new friend to the show. We consider you to be one of those. And we very much hope, and I mean this with all sincerity, beyond just the thanks that I could offer you and praise, heap upon you for being here for this long on a Sunday evening when you have kids in the house and all kinds of other things you'd probably be doing. I would beg you and ask you and warn you, you are in the family now. You are part of the family program, or the program's family, I guess I should say. And I do very sincerely hope that this will not be the only time that we hear from you.
I appreciate that. One thing you could say is congratulations and I'm sorry.
But yeah, well, that's true. Congratulations and careful what you wish for. Yeah. You are in the family now. I have no doubt that we might call on you again. I very much hope that you will come back and see us again as the campaign proceeds, even if it's for a shorter bit, 10 or 15, 20 minutes, half an hour, or whatever. Give us an update. Tell us how you're doing. Or if, a huge issue should pop up. I mean, we didn't even really talk about the budget that everybody seems to be so damn happy about. I find some serious holes in it. We didn't even get to that, well, we kind of got to it because, governor was talking about raising taxes and putting that money into education. Well, cut out the fossil fuel subsidies.
I would check out the We the People budget. I think if you don't know about it, you should check that out.
I do.
Yeah, like hashtag We the People. It's great.
I do, but even them, to be honest, I mean, I've been on some calls with some We the People. Kristen and I sat on a really long one where they really broke down the budget. They were just over the moon. Governor's gonna put all this new money into. Here's a crazy idea. Why don't you take the stupid fossil fuel money and put that money into education and don't raise anybody's taxes? What a crazy idea. Stop giving free freaking money away to multinational conglomerations of companies.
Yeah.
And give it back to our own kids. Good God, even if you cut it by a third, $1 billion.
Yes.
If you cut it in half, $1.5 billion. My goodness, they shouldn't be receiving a penny. But even We the People, Turn PA Blue, the Democratic Party, all of them. What a great job by the governor putting all this new money into education. It was so needed. You're damn right it was needed. The third largest municipality in the Commonwealth is right over there, Allentown. I can throw a rock and hit it. When the pandemic hit them, they were $84 million in the red. But still sending 60-something million out to private for-profit charters. And when they had to close their doors, they had kids sharing textbooks, outdated textbooks. They went to Pat Brown, they went to their 4 state reps and said, help us, we need money. We don't have laptops and tablets and hotspots for our kids. And they all said, too bad, especially Pat Brown. The hell with you. Too bad. You didn't vote for me. I never win Allentown. Screw you. Chairman of the Senate Appropriations Committee. Democratic Congresswoman Susan Wild got $10 million out of a Trump piece of legislation and sent it to Allentown so they could buy tablets and hotspots, so they could keep education going. Democrats know how important education is. We know it is the great equalizer. If you are poor, if you are a kid of color, if you're living in a neighborhood where shootings are the norm, we're the ones that want to get you out of it. We don't care that your skin color is a little different. You're a human being. It's one of the funny, stupid, ridiculous, make me want to puke things about the pro-life movement. Screw you. You're so full of crap. Because a young kid of color in Center City, Philadelphia, who's just as likely to get shot as anything else, you don't give crap about him, do you? Or her. We wish you cared half as much about the insurrection on January 6th as you do about whether a woman can have a baby or take contraception. You're fake, the whole damn lot of you. You have no legislation, no leaders, no guidance, no policy, except how can we make the rich richer? Because they give us back a certain percentage of it. I'm blanking on the name, Robert, but when the senator who just was a senator, I think, just resigned in one day and took a job with the fossil fuel company.
Oh,
getting his name. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, walked in the morning. I'm out. Took a job the same damn day with the fossil fuel industry. Me. I was the one that posted across the Commonwealth. He didn't quit one job and take another. He got a job transfer within the same company because he was already working for him. Stop this crap. You don't care. My party is not perfect. I think Robert would agree. But we're the only ones trying. And we need you, rural Pennsylvania, to wake up and see it. Not because you're dumb, but because you're intelligent. Not because we're better than you, but because we are you. We are the same. Simply because I don't farm doesn't mean that I do not need, want, and deserve the same things as you. We simply have different jobs. I'd like to be able to see a doctor. I'd like to be able to pay my mortgage, keep a car on the road so I can get to my job. And so do you. I'd like to be able to breathe the air. Robert was smart enough to quote the Constitution. Parts of the state Constitution I didn't know. Did you know the state Constitution also guarantees your right to clean air and clean water?
Article 1, Section 27.
Folks, we need you. We need you. We need you to wake up and join us. If you don't agree with us on every policy position, that's fine. We're adults. Let's talk about it to each other, with each other, and work it out. But what we're doing now isn't working, except for a very, very tiny few people. For God's sakes, people, we created 3 new billionaires in the Commonwealth during a pandemic. That's not a fair and equal society. That's rogue capitalism. That's unrestrained capitalism. It's fascism. We can do better. We deserve better. We are better than this. We matter. We count. We exist. Our lives are worth it. It's time to stand up and talk to each other again. Open the doors, open the curtains. You're never going to agree with me on everything. Never. We're different. You're not going to agree with Robert on everything. We're different. But I'll bet you if we listed 10 things, you'd probably agree with me on a heck of a lot more of them than you would think. We're not that different. Stop staring at the labels. R&D does not define everything that I am as a human being, or that Robert is as a human being, or George, or Kristen, or any of us. The R doesn't define you, the D doesn't define me, and it shouldn't keep us from working together to build a better Commonwealth. Commonwealth. common, all of us. Sad news, folks. Jesus and the disciples lived in a socialistic way. If one of them made money, it went into the central pot. Sorry. Sorry, you don't want to hear it. You're not the only people of faith. Faith is not a purely Republican domain. We're here too. We're better than this. We're better than this. We're better than you being suspect of me simply because I'm a member of the Democratic Party. We're better than this. We have to do these things together. For those of you in the 34th, you have not been properly represented for going on 4 decades. It's time for a change. It's time for a change. It's time to be represented. It's time to have a senator you can actually identify. What a crazy concept. I actually know who my representative is. I know who my senator is. I could find him. He'll answer me. And I should suspect, I don't want to speak for Robert, if he can't answer you, he'd actually probably look you in the face and say, you know what, I don't know, but I'm going to find out.
Yeah, I've done that. Yeah.
There's an air of honesty and genuineness in that you're not getting now. Throw open the curtains, kids, and let the sunlight in. There's a lot more that brings us together than tears us apart. And don't give me what a terrible cliche is. That is. It is a cliche. It's also true. It's also true. Robert, thank you so much for being here, especially all the time. Sorry about the sore back. I know what that's like because mine's barking too, and so is my neck. But thank you for being here. Please do not let this be the only time that you come to visit us. I hope you will come back again and see us. Let us know how you're doing, how the family's doing, how the launch went, how the campaign's going. And again, if some crazy, huge, big issue should pop up in Pennsylvania, we may call on you to comment on it. But we hope you'll come back and see us again.
I appreciate it. I hope so too.
Thanks so much, Robert. Have a great evening.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Take care.
You too.
That's Robert Zeigler running for the Pennsylvania State Senate in the 34th Senatorial District in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. George, we are pretty much done for the evening. Wanted to know if there was anything that you wanted to mention, bring up, throw out there, any of that fun stuff before we say goodnight to the good folks and I move over to the Our Revolution meeting, which I am late for.
I have nothing. So
well said. Would you like to elaborate on how much nothing you have?
No.
Okay, well said. Well said. Earn the pay tonight.
Yep.
George and I will be back with you next week. Now, if I can do this properly without throwing any of my tech off, I have actually started a note to myself of guests. Now, can I find that upcoming guest list? We are scheduled to have next week Katie Bloom with the Conservation Voters of Pennsylvania talking all things environment or environment, because when you spell it, it's environment, but I don't say it that way. Conservation Voters of PA, Katie Bloom, one of the directors there, and my friend, and has been pretty much since I moved back to the Commonwealth and got involved in politics. One of the first people I met. She is smart as a whip, tough as anything. And she is the key figure for my money in Conservation Voters. She's done an amazing job of bringing environmental issues to the legislature and individual legislators throughout Harrisburg and the important, and on both sides of the aisle, it must be said, she's brought environmental awareness to Republicans who previously didn't have it and who didn't want to hear about it, but she's opened their eyes and brought a lot to them. And that, so she is our scheduled guest for next week. I encourage you to continue to call the congressional switchboard. If you want to see another infrastructure bill, if you are happy about the implementation of the child tax credit, if you want to see voting rights protected in this country, and make no mistake about it, voting rights are 100% under assault. There are states who have passed legislation that allows the legislators, if they don't like the result of an election, to simply say, doesn't count, this is the person we want. There's nothing small d democratic about it. Not even a little. For instance, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania went for Joe Biden in 2020. The Republican-controlled legislature, under legislation proposed by them, shocker, would be able to say, we don't like that, we're choosing the other guy. That's not democracy. We are literally talking about the end of the American experiment. Call Congress, call your senators, call your member of the House of Representatives. If you do not know who they are, you can call the Central Congressional Switchboard at 202-224-3121. If you are still with us on Facebook or watching the recording, you can see that on your screen right now. 202-224-3121 is the Central Congressional Switchboard. Tell them your zip code. They will tell you who your member of the House of Representatives is and your two senators. You ask them to transfer you to the person you want to speak to or the office that you want to speak to. And then you will probably get a legislative assistant, I should say, for, I think they're called legislative assistants for constituent services, or they're just directly constituent service reps. It's one, I can't remember, to be honest. Make it short, 30 seconds. Be very polite. The folks answering the phone are not your enemies. For the most part, they're interns or not terribly well paid. Many of them are young, fresh out of college, et cetera, et cetera. Be nice to them. Tell them your concern. I support this. I want my rep to support it. I don't support this. I don't know why they voted for it. Can you tell me the position of my rep on this piece of legislation? And so on and so on. But get involved. Get educated. Get informed. It's not hard to do. Be part of the process. 202-224-3121 is the congressional switchboard number. Until next week, I beg you also, please take care of yourselves. 99.2% of the people in the last week, I believe it is, or so, might be 2 weeks, that have died from COVID-19 were not at all vaccinated. I have received both of my vaccinations. I am fully vaccinated. I could still become ill from the Delta variant of COVID-19. However, the vaccine will, for all evidence and all scientific evidence, save me from the hospital and save me from death. The Delta variant is spreading like wildfire through children because the vaccine hasn't been approved for them yet. But you can help your children from getting the Delta variant by getting vaccinated yourself. Get vaccinated. I am not magnetic. I did not change sexual orientations. I did not go from female to male. I'm the same person I was before I got vaccinated, except I feel an awful lot more secure when I go outdoors, when I go to a restaurant, when I go shopping. I feel safe. I feel protected. I feel liberated. You really want freedom? Get vaccinated. Please check on your neighbors, especially our senior neighbors. Take care of the kids. Give them a hug. For associate technical producer Lynn Dare, for my dear friend and technical producer George Dare, for the woman responsible for getting us on the air, my sister April Riddick, DJ Lex, DJ Earl, Marquise at Hot 101, Marquise and Whitney at TCP, and for Kristen, I'm Jeff Kennedy. Thank you very, very much for being here this week. And we look forward to seeing you again next week. Until then, please take care of yourselves and each other. Good night, all. We'll see you next week.